Buccaneers have decided to let Baker cook. Tampa named Baker Mayfield their starting quarterback Tuesday. The former first overall pick in 2018 beat out 2021 second-rounder Kyle Trask for the job. Elsewhere, Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin got some good health news after leaving Monday night's win over Baltimore early with a toe injury. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reports an MRI on the Pro Bowler revealed no major damage, and the team is optimistic he'll be ready for Week 1. The news not as good for Seahawks first-round pick Jackson Smith-Njigba. He underwent wrist surgery after getting injured in Saturday's preseason game against the Cowboys. Head coach Pete Carroll says his rookie receiver could miss 3 to 4 weeks. And despite the Colts giving him permission to seek a trade Monday, Jonathan Taylor did attend the team's practice Tuesday. But the All-Pro running back remained sidelined with an ankle injury. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Reggie was a nurse for 16 years.
I had become very burnt out. I wasn't making good money.
Then it happened.
There was an ad for My Computer Career, and it just spoke to me.
My Computer Career was the best decision he ever made.
I could study anywhere from my laptop, and I was working in the first couple weeks of me being in class.
Reggie hit a home run.
The field is teeming with jobs.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
The school is amazing.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. This is one student's experience. Individual.
It's the most time-honored tradition to start the weekend, grabbing a cold one from a local Nebraska brewery. Let's be real here. It's hot outside, and you don't want to drink the same boring beer as those Hawkeye fans. Drink icy cold, Nebraska-brewed beers, cider, or seltzers instead. Each week, we're putting the spotlight on a unique Nebraska brewery with One Beer Friday. Share your brew on social media with the hashtag One Beer Friday, and you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card to a local Nebraska brewery. Nebraska is the good life with great beer. Click nebraska.beer to learn more.
The Orpheum Theatre welcomes comedy legend and icon John Cleese to the stage for an evening with the late John Cleese. It's an unforgettable night of laughs and conversation when the Monty Python co-founder takes the stage to share an hilarious and insightful look at his life and work. It's the thrill of a lifetime event. Don't miss John Cleese, live November 8th. Get tickets at ticketomaha.com.
WORK Work News Radio.
Next up, how many days until Friday? Well, one coworker has it figured out. But first, the latest on a meatball shortage that could have been avoided by using EasyCater.
I'm at the buffet where the meatballs are dwindling. While Caprese salad supplies remain strong, sources say the garlic bread is long gone.
Newsflash, it's hard to order the right amount of food, but at EasyCater, we make hard easy. With catering experts ready to help 24/7. Order from over 100,000 restaurants at easycater.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
And now, try Babbel free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Make the right call, fans. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Rooferees.
1620 The Zone.
But at the end of the day, it's about our students. 66,000 students here at this amazing campus. So what our students will find is I will engage. I hope they will think that I'm approachable and that I will listen. I will listen to their concerns. I will care greatly about their success, about their ability to have the best value education at the best price, and also make sure that we keep this campus as safe as possible. So that's how I'm going to engage with our students. I'm looking forward to it.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Good morning. It is Mornings with Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone. Nick and Jimmy with you. Gary back with us tomorrow. We kick off Big Red Football Week tomorrow as well. Big show for you. Looking forward to that. Lots to get excited about. In fact, we are 1 week away from Volleyball Day in America, which was dubbed by Matt Rule. And all I could think about, and Connor and I kind of touched on this yesterday, Jimmy, during the crossover. Can you imagine? I don't think they would have played the game if it was today, not a week from today, given the humidity. I like to consider myself as a...
That's something they wouldn't have...
I mean, they're going to do everything they can to get this thing done. I mean, it would have to be some pretty extreme conditions.
The preliminary forecast for next Wednesday say 85 and sunny during the day, comfortable at night.
Yeah.
Actually, 85 during the day is going to feel like 45 after these past couple days.
Oh, hell, Friday in the low 90s is. But, you know, you grew up in Texas, so this is nothing.
Yes, we call this summer.
Yeah, this is nothing different for you.
This is August.
I've grown up here my entire life. I remember one time I was in Mexico and we were going on a fishing excursion, and our guide was kind of apologizing about the humidity. He's like, "Yeah, this is really humid. This time of the year is usually when it gets pretty humid." I said, "Oh yeah, we get that in Nebraska too." And he looked at me like I was crazy, like, "Yeah, but not like this." And I know, like this, like it's like this. I got to admit,
windows fogging up, totally used to that.
This
growing up.
Stretch over the last couple of days, and maybe it's because we haven't had it in a while.
That's the other thing. We haven't had summer.
It's been crazy. It really has. I mean, you've got high school football teams that are practicing in the morning out of necessity because they can't during the day because it's too hot.
A good way to start the day.
So I will admit, it feels a little different. So immediately we think of, okay, where we are a week from now, and just a week and a day, 8 days from the kickoff of the 2023 Nebraska football season. If they were to have played the volleyball game tonight, or if we had this weather next Wednesday, what type of decisions would have to be made?
Pickle juice. Lots of pickle juice.
And how much, as you heard there in the open, how much would, I will say, the president exiting, Ted Carter, how much would he have to say about those types of decisions? That's a big news story. We'll get into it.
Not my problem.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you know what? I trust you guys. You guys do.
Let me meet this Bucknuts guy.
I'm talking to Ohio State right now to see what they're going to do with some of their upcoming events. But it's hot. We're going to be talking to Westside head football coach later today, Paul Lamangi. I know they're practicing in the morning as
state champion.
That's right. And many high schools that didn't get underway last week, getting underway tomorrow and Friday for week one. And we talked to Andy Kendi yesterday, too, about how they're kind of working around that heat. Ethan Piper and Marcus Satterfield, they were talking about the heat yesterday after practice and kind of spinning it as a positive as well. Look, folks, it's hot out there. And today it's going to be hot. Tomorrow it's going to be hot. Friday gets down to 90, which
As Jimmy said, it's going to feel more like 50.
By
which will be
November,
good.
it should be cooler.
Think so.
Just going out on a limb.
I would agree with that sentiment as well. So that's another day here in the great city of Omaha. Although
Nick will be back with the 7-day right
maybe
after
it's
this.
not necessarily as bad because I can see clearly through the window today. Like I'm looking right at Dodge Street, which, by the way, our street lights out there on Dodge, over here on 50th and Dodge, not doing so well. It's not illuminating Dodge like it typically does. But
Good thing the sun will be doing that later.
Yesterday, I could not see out the window. It was the moisture on the window from the humidity was so bad. So maybe today it's actually going to be pleasant out there. There you go. But glad you're with us here on a Wednesday.
Says it was not.
There's so much going on with Nebraska football. They're in the middle of kind of this little in-between fall camp and game prep. We'll talk about that. I mentioned Paul Lamanji. He's going to be joining us on the show. We're going to talk some West Side football as they open up against Creighton Prep and, as Jimmy alluded to, defending that state title. Parker Gabriel, we're going to do another NFL camp hit. We're going to be talking Denver Broncos today with our good buddy, formerly with the Lincoln Journal-Star, now with the Denver Post, Mr. Parker Gabriel. Also, Brandon Vogel will stop by today before we're out of here to talk the latest in Nebraska football. And we lead off with a very big story that broke yesterday afternoon, and that is University of Nebraska president, the Admiral, Ted Carter, was
setting
named
sail for Columbus.
Yeah.
See what we did there.
Yeah, he's farewell, the Admiral. He is going to be the new president of Ohio State University. Ohio State Board of Trustees voted unanimously to appoint Carter as their 17th president, and he will replace Krista Johnson, who stepped down in May after 2 years. Now, Ted Carter will have now been here for 4 years. He's expected to start on January 1st, so he will finish out this year's term.
To his credit, though, you don't have to change a lot of the colors of ties and whatnot, so that's smart on his part. That's next level.
I would say
keep a lot of that red.
Yeah,
looks sharp.
Yeah,
on the TV there, it looks good.
And I know he was obviously extremely excited to get this job, as he called an honor. But also very humbled with the experience and the relationships he made with Nebraska. And from an athletic standpoint, because that's what we deal with every day, Ted Carter was definitely an athletics.
He was a
president. And we can't always say that.
No. Sometimes they're the enemy, but he was very much a friend.
Yes. And I know Matt Rule, and
thus
he
it's
spoke.
A loss for Nebraska.
It is. It absolutely is. He's a guy who understands collegiate athletics, having been a student athlete himself. He's a guy that
cares about his university.
Well, he's someone that I think always wanted to. Yeah, he wanted to have that open dialogue with athletics. I think any president of a school like Nebraska, a school like Ohio State, a school like Michigan, a lot of these schools that are well represented with their athletic department understand that athletics is the front porch of the university.
That's
true.
True.
To say, the front door of the university, or however you want to say it. And it's something that I don't think is always common when you're maybe trying to juggle the academia side to athletics, and always trying to, I would say, be well connected to the athletic department without overstepping your bounds. And I think that for Ted Carter, he was also a guy that was extremely visible at a lot of University of Nebraska system events. And that doesn't just exclude Omaha or even Kearney for that matter. I can't speak on behalf of his visibility in Kearney because I spend very little time in Kearney. But in Omaha, I mean, the guy was very visible and present a lot at Omaha hockey games, having been a former hockey player himself. In fact, that was his call sign, slap shot. So
I do love that.
Yeah, I mean, like, he was somebody that you always knew supported athletics. Now, there's always the Matt Rule story of when it seemed like maybe the negotiations between Trev and Matt Rule's camp were kind of hitting a snag, maybe hitting a wall, it was Ted Carter, and it's well known, was the one that really encouraged Trev to go all in, and that Ted Carter would support him. And basically said, out of the candidates we have to be the next head football coach for Nebraska, who do you want the most? And Trev made no bones about it. He said, I wanted Matt Rule. And Ted Carter said, then go get him. And here's how we can do that. And was able to help solve that problem. And a few short days after that, Matt Rule was the next head football coach for Nebraska. Now, we don't know how that's going to turn out. But the fact that you had a president that knew, okay, they want X amount of dollars, there was obviously a big financial component that I think some presidents in advisement would say,
we got to fix it.
Yeah, but some presidents in advisement would say, yeah, okay, I get it. That's a little rich for our blood. Let's go on to candidate B, or let's go on to candidate C. And there are presidents that are going to, they're going to look at a current financial situation for their university. They're going to look at just coming out of COVID, and is it, what's the word I'm looking for? Would it be justifiable spending? Is it something that you feel is going to be a solid return on an investment? And I understand that a lot of university presidents maybe didn't necessarily think that way coming out of COVID.
Yeah, well, they're not committed to winning football then, because at
Sure.
least here he's like, you know what? The return on investment is great, because you know what winning football does at Nebraska?
Right.
That makes lots of money. That brings notoriety and attention. Students that want to apply and go to school at Nebraska, merchandise sales, all that good stuff. And so it is worth it. At that point, it's, well, how much is it going to take? We just need to fix it.
But you know as well as I do, not every president, especially when they have to answer to a board, can justify
I've
that.
seen it firsthand.
Is that considered the best way to spend the money that they have, that they're trying to continue to recover out of COVID? And not everybody's going to play the long game there. They're going to look at, okay, short term, the first year or two, the money coming out, are we getting that return on investment?
I've seen it firsthand, and then people are upset when the football program's 1-11, and they ask why. Well, then you find out because they were told you can hire a head coach, but you can't exceed this price. Well, then you get what you pay for.
Yeah, and that's what, again, one example.
Kind of stuff that really puts Admiral Carter in a great light, because he knows how important it is to the people.
Yeah, he's an analytical guy. I think he's a highly regarded guy. In this, you're not getting the Ohio State job over what was reported to be over 100 candidates that Ohio State
back
had.
From them, I tried.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but apparently the Admiral's credentials were just a little bit more glowing than yours.
I put led Kansas to 14 national championships in NCAA football, so I knew how to build a program from nothing. But yeah,
that's because you were on freshman mode and all that, or in the college football game.
You play the teams in front of you on the screen.
That's true. But still, you could have upped it to like all pro or all conference, and challenge yourself every day. I think Ted Carter did that. Ted Carter challenged himself. But Ted Carter, and this was kind of cool too, where Ted Carter, I don't know how many people knew this, but he received a $144,000 bonus from the NU Board of Regents because he met more than 99% of the benchmarks that were laid out for him in his contract.
That's pretty good.
How about this though? He said, now we don't know if it's been true, he had planned to donate all of that, which is pretty cool. Exactly. I mean, I would not for a moment, and I've only met him a couple of times briefly at UNO hockey games. Great dude. You feel like you're in the presence of someone who kind of gets it, but someone who also just well respected, and he carries himself in a manner that whatever he has to say, you kind of want to listen.
And thus he'll be missed because of that. You don't
absolutely.
Just
I mean,
that.
this is a big. I mean, this isn't Trev leaving, which Trev again, much like Ted Carter, Trev has in the short time that he's been at Nebraska, and this being the biggest hire of the Trev Alberts Nebraska Lincoln, that is athletic director era, hiring Matt Rule. I mean, they're connected at the hip, but the way that Trev has gone about the day to day compared to the previous athletic director, is much different and it's much more what you would want to see out of an athletic director.
Well, you could tell they really have investment in it, and they care because it's a labor of love. They want to fix things. They want to make things okay because they feel that is their mission.
Well, it's passionate to, people, especially who have been student athletes. And I don't even necessarily want to say it means so much to Trev because he was a student athlete at Nebraska. I think when you're a student athlete, you kind of get it. You understand the demands. You understand that day to day, whether we're talking about a college football player, we're talking about a college lacrosse player. You understand the demands that come with being a student athlete. And I think for people who have lived that life to get it, that always helps you connect a little bit more. But also with what we've seen, Trev, and this is where I kind of, again, bring Ted Carter back in too, is having the support of the people around you. And remember that the Nebraska system's president was going to sort of take on a new role where it was going to sort of oversee athletics as a whole, where basically Trev would report to Ted Carter. And so you do have that part of the athletic connection on who the next one would be. There's a lot of things that Ted Carter is going to be remembered for from a university standpoint. I don't want to make this all about athletics, but
no, I get what you mean.
From the athletic component of it, which again is what we talk about every day, to have that type of connection, that type of support, and that type of synergy between the president and the athletic director, this is definitely a big loss for Nebraska. And whoever steps in to fill those shoes is going to have big shoes to fill, is going to have an exciting yet challenging time for the University of Nebraska when you consider the Big Ten landscape, the realignment of college athletics, the things that are going on right now for the Nebraska football team with these brand new facility structure, new head coach, a lot of exciting yet, again, unknown and challenging things that Ted Carter helped bring to University of Nebraska-Lincoln, but also supported that. So I think there was definitely a standard that in just 4 short years, and think about those 4 years, and I mentioned COVID, that was for any president, any chancellor, anyone that was in the power chair at a university, extremely tough times to navigate. And I go back to spending. How are you going to spend for the future? How are you going to spend for the present? And making those types of decisions when it came to moving forward, to making sure that even with the cuts or the furloughs that had to take place during COVID, that as a university and a university system, you were moving forward. You were continued to be innovative. And so, again, Ed Carter checked all of those boxes. So to say that this is going to be a man that will be missed would be a massive understatement. So, and again, keep your eye on at the Regents in June gave Ted Carter oversight of Nebraska athletics. That responsibility that used to reside with the chancellor is now with the president. Will that be the same going forward once you identify the strongest candidate to lead the University of Nebraska system? And so for Ted Carter, tremendous leader, a tremendous opportunity for he and his wife. I don't think anybody can look at him and be like, whoa, what is he going to have at Ohio State that he doesn't have in Nebraska? Well, again,
a Nike apparel.
You are going to be moving from Adidas to Nike, but I mean, but see, that's kind of where our mind goes. Like we go to the athletic part of it too. But I mean, Ohio State from an academic institution is as good as you're going to get in the Big Ten. Athletically, I think that goes without saying. This is obviously a major step up. And that's not to say that when he got to Nebraska, that was like, just a stepping stone. I think there's a lot of university presidents that are going to look at Nebraska as, okay, this is where I want to be until I'm basically either shown the door or retire. But there are certain people, and we were blessed to have them for 4 years, in my opinion, and Ted Carter, that are going to be highly sought after for the bigger jobs that do actually exist outside of Nebraska. When you get someone That
How do you think that works? You think he applies, or somebody calls him, or
you probably have some headhunters. I think
Yeah,
just like coaches and stuff, you have probably somewhat representation. I don't know
You
if they
mean
call
you
them
mean he's-
agents.
he wasn't
They
on
might have
Indeed?
attorneys. I think they have. I don't know
He
if they
wasn't
have
on
like talent
LinkedIn?
agents. Maybe LinkedIn. I don't know.
Oh,
But,
easy
hey,
apply?
We've got this
Sure.
because remember Ohio State also, and maybe this will fall under Ted Carter's lap too. I'm not 100% aware of Ohio State. As I mentioned, University of Nebraska, and this was a big thing that we were talking about, especially given the fact that Ted Carter was in the power chair, but how the Nebraska Regents gave Carter the oversight of Nebraska athletics. I don't know if Ohio State operates in a similar manner, but remember, you have Gene Smith who is retiring, so you've got a big job of finding someone who's going to replace, speaking of people who did some very positive things at their most recent stop. I mean, Gene Smith was one of those guys at Ohio State as an athletic director. So they're going to be losing one heck of an athletic director as Gene Smith is going to be moving away from it. I still think he's going to be in the Super Conference Committee, whenever that happens. Gene Smith's going to be on a committee. And I don't know if that's necessarily why he's leaving Ohio State, but I think the timing's interesting. But having a guy like Ted Carter be a part of that decision-making process, I think is going to be very beneficial for Ohio State. So it is salute to the Admiral today, as Ted Carter is.
Oh, yeah, I thought you meant David Robinson. Sorry.
The other Admiral.
Sorry, I grew up with a different Admiral.
Making the move to Ohio State effective on January 1st of 2024. So you'll still see Ted. I want to know what's going to happen with the motorcycle. He's got the chopper, What's going to happen with that?
It's probably
going to
go
donate
to
that?
Columbus with him.
Nah, come on, Ted.
He's not going to ride it, like Rocky and Rocky 3 with.
Yeah.
Or, Top Gun.
I think it should be donated. I think you should leave it to Husker Athletics. Remember they rolled in. Now, I'm trying to remember, though, if they said it was something that Trev had received, but when they unveiled the new Herbie for the spring game, there was the motorcycle, but I thought for some reason that had more of a Trev connection than did a Ted Carter. But either way, it'll be
like Harley Day at K-State.
So that's a thing in a lot more football venues. So when I was in,
that's a big deal down there. They do it for the biggest games.
Well, and then in high school football, this is something that I was sort of able to see, and I opened my eyes to this, which I didn't know it exists because other than working out there, I'd been to Columbus once in my life before that. That before high school football games, the bus gets a motorcycle motorcade from the high school to the stadium. So all the motorcycles lead the bus into the stadium in Columbus, Pawnee Stadium, Pawnee Field. Back, or if he's gonna pull it, like the Top Gun. I mean, come on, we can make so many Top Gun references because of his previous life.
It's us.
Well, and because it's previous life of what Ted Carter did too, being an Air Force guy. So a lot under Ted Carter's watch for sure. Big congratulations to him and for the next potential president. As I said, some very big shoes to fill there. So that was kind of the big news all across of University of Nebraska system, but definitely a major, major athletic element to that announcement yesterday. But everything will go on. University will continue. The waters will recede. Kids will continue to go to school. Degrees will still be had.
You still got to get up and go to school.
Games will still be played. I know. You're not getting a day off today because Ted Carter announced that he's going to be the next president of Ohio State. But again, a dude that I think a lot of people in athletics felt a very strong connection to. Matt Rule spoke on the radio show last night and reiterated how big of a role Ted Carter played in Matt Rule when deciding what his next step was going to be after getting fired at Carolina. Ted Carter had a big part of that. It was about the people that were involved at each place, and he felt a strong connection with Trev and with Ted Carter. So, but as Matt Rule reiterated, so I don't think anybody was thinking this like, well, now is Matt Rule getting cold feet because Ted Carter, the Admiral's not there anymore? No, Matt Rule made it very clear, though. His guy is Trev Alberts, and that's as long as Trev's there, and he feels extremely comfortable and confident in where they're going, and that's all that matters to him. But definitely had a lot of respect for the Admiral. All right, when we return, I'm going to get into some of what Marcus Satterfield had to say yesterday. We've got a lot of different Nebraska storylines today. They will practice tonight, then tomorrow is the game simulation.
The pretend game.
Yeah. And then which some jobs could be on the line, including, if it's not already, which I tend to think they already know who their kicker is. But tomorrow night, according to what Matt Rule said, will be a big indicator or big deciding factor of who will be that number one kicker. Will it be Tristan Alvano or will it be Timmy Bleakroad? I think the freshman's got a leg up. It's too easy. Sorry.
You got dad jokes today.
Sorry. Yeah. Speaking of which, big howdy to my wife and my son, who are most likely, hopefully, as long as they had no setbacks, on the road right now.
Driving?
Yep.
Okay, so they're not having the beer at that bar at Epley?
No, they're not flying. And that would be actually probably better for my wife because of all nights, my son decided to wake up at midnight, then at 1:30, then at that point had to sleep in the same bed with mom and dad.
So
when
you didn't
everybody
sleep
was getting up
well.
at 4. I did not
And
sleep
he's
well.
probably a space heater. I'm just going out on a limb.
Oh, and so he's working through a pretty good cold as well. Yeah, he was warm. So there was a lot going on this morning, and then all of a sudden as I'm
wait, so that means you're home alone today.
I am home
you're
alone
gonna
today.
Get yourself the mean nap.
Well, exactly. I don't feel like I'm not worried about myself. As soon as we get done with everything we need to get
4
done,
hours to get through.
I get to go home, take a nap. Like my wife, I mean, they're making the long john out to Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Wednesday in the Handley house.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be risky business in this whole thing.
hot,
Well, I'm not going to be dabbling in the prostitution game or anything like that. I want to talk about risky
hey,
business,
hey,
but
hey, if you call Lana or Guido, I'm not here to judge. To each their own.
Now, the exciting thing when I have like the house to myself is I usually eat the foods that I know my wife will not eat. She doesn't like chicken at all. So it'll be a wings night.
Okay.
Most likely it'll be an Oscars night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out Oscars.
Yes, that'll be very
It's like
exciting for me.
if she doesn't like a certain pizza, you're like, meat lovers tonight.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's like, okay, what have I been craving? But I'm always, a man. I try to be a man of compromise when it comes to our menu. What do I know I want that I couldn't
happy
eat?
Wife, happy life.
Mm-hmm. But I know that they're hopefully on the road right now, maybe listening, maybe not. Hopefully my son is now back in the car seat napping. But yeah, that was an early morning. Of all nights that he had to pull that, yeah.
Oh, thoughts and prayers to your wife.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't sleep that well either, and she's got to drive because
She's the
he's
one
pretty
doing the
useless
driving.
back there in the seat.
Yep. She's doing the driving, and so that'll be interesting. Yeah.
You get
She's
a
a trooper.
6-pack of Red Bull.
She did say, though, before I left, she said she surprisingly wasn't that tired and had a little adrenaline going. And then she will have some relief once she gets to Des Moines because her parents, my parents-in-law, their parents-in-law, they're going to.
So she just needs a couple hours.
They're kind of convoying together, too. And then so they'll, at that point, once they get to Des Moines, then they'll be able to someone
will come in off the bench so that she can get a little snooze.
She might get a little snoozer in there, too. So
Okay.
they got a good plan going. So it's really those first 2.5 hours.
Yeah, run the damn ball. Wait, what?
That are going to be crucial in this one. But getting back to Nebraska, Omaha World Herald has their game-by-game predictions. Yes, which I think is such an impossible task with the unknowns. But I get it. You got to do it. You got whether you feel good about it or not. There is one team that when I've seen these game-by-game predictions, though, that I'm still just kind of scratching my head about that I'll get to. Episode 3 of A Look In. I don't know if you caught it. Now, you had to carve out about an hour, though, because it was the longest episode yet of A Look In. A couple of takeaways there. Matt Rule did have his first radio call-in show. We'll tell you about what the head coach had to say to the public as well. Want to, again, let you know our lineup, which is brought to you by the rooferees of John Higgins Weather Guard. We've got Parker Gabriel going to be talking some Denver Bronco football as we do our Wednesday camping. Going to be talking to Westside head football coach Paul Lamangi at 8:30, and then Brandon Vogel will be stopping by before we get out of here at 9:40. If you want to hit us up, do so on the 42-degree hotline, The Source, by your mom's house, 402-951-1620. The Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally. You can email us. I am Handley at 1620thezone.com. He is Jimmy at 1620thezone.com, or the J-Tech Construction Zone Twitter feed. You can hit me up at Nick Handley 1620.
Or at Sharp and Handley.
Or at Sharp and Handley. Thank you for reminding me that we have the show account.
I forget.
Well.
I honestly forget. And then
appreciate
the
that.
other day, I was like, we should probably give that out.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Before we take a break, let's take a quick call. Go to the 42-degree hotline and say hello to our good friend Lance. What's going on, Lance? Good morning.
Hey, I just wanted to say you guys kind of messed it up with Ted Carter there. He's not in the Air Force. He's a Navy admiral.
Or Navy, you're right. Yes. I'm sorry. I did slip on that one.
Oh, yeah. Admiral.
It's offensive to all of us. I'll shut up and listen now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See,
Yes,
that's
yes.
that lack of sleep.
That is. I'm going to blame it on the sleep. Yes, Navy.
When you said Air Force, it did
Naval
cross my mind, but I
aviator.
was busy doing something else here.
Yes, naval aviator. Yes. No, he's right though. You give respect where respect's
Admiral.
due. Right there, the admiral, and he is going to
Just like my admiral who was in the Navy.
He's going to be missed for sure. All right, when we return though, we've got a Omaha World Herald game by game prediction and the breakdown that they have, and we'll get to the record as well. But one team, and it's not just the Omaha World Herald, folks. This was done by Sam McEwen and Evan Bland, by the way. I've seen others that have done the game-by-game predictions, and there's one game that people think is really going to be a tough one for Nebraska, and I don't know if I buy it. And
Michigan?
mind you, well, that one I do agree it will be a very, very tough one. But we'll get to that. Also, some of the takeaways is Marcus Satterfield speaking after practice where the offense stands. Ethan Piper talking about how Nebraska's getting through the heat. That also, the Big Ten predictions for the Big Ten. CBS has that out. We've got a starter in Tampa Bay. We've got some bad news for a former Ohio State wide receiver. And also some, I wouldn't call it conformity, but is there anything right now that Saleh and the Jets could do to Aaron Rodgers or suggest to Aaron Rodgers that he would have a problem with? The bromancing between the two parties right now is at a epic high right now. That also some major shakeup with the Chicago White Sox. You've got a return of a stud, but is it too little too late? Lots to get to here on a Wednesday. It is Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. The best way to catch all the action is on 1620 The Zone. And no line for the bathroom.
Summer may be over, but the savings are hotter than ever with the end of summer sale at 42 Degrees. Going on now at all locations. Save big time on Kratom, Delta, disposables and e-juice, and a whole lot more with prices up to 50% off. And the friendliest, most knowledgeable, and professional staff who'll find just the right products for you. Check out 42degrees.com. The end of summer sale. By your mom's house.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Celebrate Septemberfest Labor Day weekend outside the CHI Health Center, Lot D, September 1st through the 4th. There are games, carnival rides, and food. There's also clowns, a petting zoo, and a KCBC barbecue cook-off. Friday, there's Omaha Fight Club and epic music all weekend long. Monday, it's the Labor Day Parade through downtown Omaha at 10 a.m., along with the All-American Car Show with Candy Clark from American Graffiti. Septemberfest at the CHI Health Center, Lot D. Click SeptemberFestOmaha.org for times and parking info.
Join Sharp and Handley this Thursday from 6 to 10 when they officially kick off 1620 The Zone's Redout Week, presented by Union Bank and Trust. Gary and Nick discuss Nebraska's first game in Minnesota in the 2023 season. It's Sharp and Handley season kickoff, presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. Thursday, 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep up
who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
It's August and time to transition into your new Chevy from Woodhouse Chevy. With 2 convenient metro locations, Woodhouse has the right Chevy at the right price for you. Chat with their knowledgeable, friendly staff in Omaha or Missouri Valley or online at woodhouse.com. Save with Woodhouse Chevy when you purchase your new Silverado 1500 or Equinox all this month. For great selection, service, and price, find new roads to Woodhouse Chevy, 112th and Dodge in Omaha, or I-29 exit 75 Missouri Valley, and always online at woodhouse.com.
Attention sales professionals. NRG Media is looking for an accomplished business-to-business salesperson who wants to take their success and skills to a new level. Is this you? Our account executives work with local businesses to create marketing plans to help them get more customers. On air, digital, on-site, audio, video, it's all part of what you can sell. A sales career with NRG lets you make a real difference. Get more info and apply online at nrgmedia.com. NRG Media is an equal opportunity employer.
The Omaha Farmers Market is celebrating 30 years of farm fresh, locally grown produce, May 6th through October 15th. Open rain or shine in the Old Market every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and in Exarban Village every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. To keep up with what's in season, visit omahafarmersmarket.org and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Presented by Methodist Health System with media sponsors KETV Channel 7 and Sweet 98.5.
We created a simple PDF that gives you everything you need to know about branding, designing, and building a website that increases revenue. Download the website playbook for free at jmonline.com. If you're considering a website project but not sure who to hire, go to jmonline.com and download the free website playbook. It's a guide to a high-performing website. That's jmonline.com.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone's proud to support this year's Big Red Friday. Next Friday. No, this Friday. Oh, it's already here. On Friday, August 25th, so 2 days from today, stop by any participating McDonald's to purchase the limited edition 2023 Big Red Friday flag for just $5. All proceeds benefit the family staying at Ronald McDonald House Charities in Omaha. Apparently, I got as much sleep as the Handley household.
Mm-hmm.
Get all the details now at 1620thezone.com.
Big talking point yesterday amongst Marcus Satterfield, Ethan Piper, even heard from Barrett Liebentritt. That's right. We finally got the fullback. Fullback spoke yesterday, too. And then Matt Rule, subsequently on the radio show last night, having his first call-in show, first hour. The Heat,
Get some good callers.
it wasn't as bad or in our line of work good as I was hoping. I think everybody was everybody brought their A game, which I was disappointed. Maybe some of the more
Give it time.
entertaining callers. Yeah, that's
Give
true.
it time.
But maybe some of the more entertaining callers are when you have somebody in the athletic director chair on when they're first introduced. I remember when Bill Moose was doing his first radio call-in show. And this was a legitimate request. This wasn't someone like busting his balls. This was a legitimate request of the popcorn was a bit stale, and wanted to see if the popcorn could basically be reinvigorated. These were the things that were on.
In the
Husker
90s,
fans'
the popcorn was just perfect.
Yeah.
It was buttery, it was hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's very symbolic of where we are as a program right now, where it's stale and flat, and I just don't really want to
We're
enjoy it.
hanging 70 on Big 12 opponents.
I eat it because popcorn's available, but I don't
Slinger
necessarily like it.
Slinging.
Yeah. Iowa stealing that thing from us, too. He's Iowa. Come on, do your own thing. I'm the Iowa hater, though, so that's...
Has someone emailed you and told you that?
I think so. No, I think, yeah, someone did email and say that I clearly hate Iowa.
Nick Hanley here for every state but Iowa.
I mean, my excuse is always, I have friends in Iowa. Does that mean I don't hate Iowa?
I have plenty of Iowa friends.
I have Iowa friends. I enjoy people like Scott Docterman and Chad Lysko, Rob Howe, who cover Iowa football. Doesn't that make me a friend of the program and a friend of the state?
Nick Hanley here for Iowa.
It was because I was talking about how I feel like when I see bad drivers.
You blame it's all
I see a lot of Iowa plates. And
yeah, I'm sorry, I got to side with Gary on that one.
I think we drive perfectly fine here, or we're so bad, and I'm so used to it that I don't notice that part of it. But when I get ticked off, someone goes above and beyond, and I see an Iowa plate, maybe I unfairly paint them into that picture. But either way, I do appreciate the contributions that the state of Iowa does bring to our society. Let that be known. But talking about the Heat for a lot of the players, the coaches, and I think I like what, by the way, Marcus Satterfield went like totally Junction Boys on the Heat topic and saying like they're making sure that they give them plenty of water breaks. They're moving them inside and outside. But he did mention we're not like giving them salt tablets. Like, you know what? If you want to toughen them up, if you're going to have the fullback speak yesterday and you want to get into some blue collar tough guy football, you'd start bringing back the salt tablets, my friend.
You get remember the plastic jugs with all the different, there were like cords and you would suck on them and that's how you would get your water.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you'd have like so I remember the first, and it was, I honestly, we probably did, but I got to say, Jimmy, and this is where maybe my age has gotten to me. I don't remember ever having to practice in, no, we had like the PVC pipe.
Oh,
where you had the very long PVC pipe with the holes in it, and it was just like a drinking trough. Yeah. Oh, that was great, especially when it was flowing really well. There were times that sometimes the water would have like a very low flow. Oh, it was awful.
You hate when there's
but then there were days when, and then there would be certain holes in the PVC pipe that had a little bit better flow than the others. So that would have like all of the players like behind that one.
Everybody was just yelling, suck, suck.
And there's like, well, there's these two are open right here. Yeah, but they're hardly like spitting out any water. Yeah, the PVC pipe. That was. I wonder if they still do that as much. It was not an. Yeah, it's true. It was not an exact science either. But if you watched any of the,
we were the last generation to drink out of a garden hose. So,
and if you put the garden hose straight up, and then you got that little bubbly, oh, that was the best. A little bit of that metallic
we're not the only
taste.
one. There's somebody listening like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's still people like it.
We were tough because of it. Our immune system didn't stand a chance.
You know what I'm attempting to do today? I'm attempting to mow. So when I think of mowing the lawn on a hot day, I think
wild today.
I think of breaking out the hose and drinking out of the hose. So maybe I will. I haven't done it in a long time.
AirPods, a little master of puppets, and be like,
yeah, and then you take a little break and take a hose break. Yeah, just take a hose break.
Which used to mean something completely different 15 years ago.
Or right now, too. I don't think I ever practiced in a stretch of days that have been this brutal in football. Now, remember, this was the days that we could all do 2-a-days. Hell, my senior year, we had 3 days. We had the choice. It was up to the team. We could do 2 weeks of 2-a-days or 1 week of 3-a-days, and we chose 1 week of 3 days.
Hell week.
Oh, and by the time you got to Wednesday, remember we were talking about the smell of Ben Gay after that first day of practice because everybody's sore and everybody's just slapping on some Ben Gay.
The locker room smelled like that Pink concert the other night.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure that was very gamey. Which, by the way, Jimmy and I learned. See, we were just going off of the Charles Schwab attendance for a baseball game, not counting in the fact that there was seats on the field. And I was talking about this because Connor was trying to gauge how big Pink is, like in the grand scheme of
she's like 5'6", 5'7".
No, of entertainers. Oh. No, I did say, though, she's very strong. We're trying to see if, we knew she's not on the level of Taylor Swift.
Who is?
But I said she's right up there with Lady Gaga.
You think there's Taylor Swift,
I think there's especially for female performers, I think there's Taylor Swift and she's in a league of her own. Then I think probably at the next level you have Beyonce, and then I think right below Beyonce is Lady Gaga and Pink. That's kind of how I always understood it. So they had that thing sold out. I guess there was what did David say yesterday? 34, 35,000?
He said 47,000, but I think that was kind of exaggerating.
Yeah.
Not David exaggerating, but whoever.
But Pink said that. Yeah. Pink was the one herself's wow, 47,000.
Joe Louis was.
Do you know how bad that place had to smell? Man, just had to stink, especially when you get in the concourse and you're trying to get the beers. How gamey that was.
It was like a porta potty in a third world country on a hot day.
But yes, they were talking a lot about that yesterday. That was a big part of the line of questioning, both on the call-in show and on the media availability with Liebentritt and Piper and Satterfield of how they're dealing with the heat. When I look at, and this comes from the unveiling of the new locker room and the new facility there. When I look at the things that these athletes have to recover from, and this is a big thing, but it's insane. You never want to say, oh, don't worry about these guys are going to be fine when you're trying to grind through that type of heat. But if there's anybody who's going to be just fine, considering the recovery methods and the absolute state-of-the-art innovation that facility now has, they're going to be fine. Yeah. And they're all carrying around, if you watch
the big jugs?
The big jugs, yep.
Reminds me of some of my friends in high school. They'd have the big jugs.
Yeah.
Not to be, big jugs of water. I don't want it.
When you see the big jugs of water,
carrying those too.
By the way, the big jugs of water for student athletes, I think we all just assume, they're encouraged to do that. They've got their strength and conditioning. They've got their nutritionist. Everybody's monitoring their hydration, which again, during that look in yesterday, when they were getting checked in and they were having the thing put on their tongue, I'm like, I thought we were past COVID. That's what it looked like. It looks like they were getting some type of COVID test, or they were going to maybe temperature check them. But no, it was their saliva count to see their hydration level, which again, just wow. But they're all carrying around their gallons of water. But when I would go to a gym and I'd see a guy or gal carry around a gallon of water, I was asking myself, is that necessary? But then you think about it. They're training.
They like water.
They're trying to also stay hydrated and get the benefits of such hydration. So maybe I shouldn't judge. I'm very judgmental sometimes.
At least you admit it.
In certain environments, like in an environment of a college football or college basketball or volleyball team, and they're doing all kinds of things where they're carrying around jugs of water. I'm like, they're supposed to. They were probably told they need to do that. But then when I see people at the gym doing that, I think, oh, you're a meathead. I shouldn't do that. Because they're probably trying to accomplish the same thing as the student athletes, and that is stay well hydrated.
And they're
Why
older.
do I got to think like that?
Yeah, they're older. They might have to. They might have kidney issues.
It's probably more important for them. Why do I got to think like that? Why do I got to go to negative town?
Richard?
I am. I'm like, really? You need the gallon of water? You want everybody in this gym to see that you're drinking a gallon of water.
You're drinking water.
You're drinking way more water than any of us. That makes you better than us. You know what? I'm taking my ass
Busch Light
over
over
to
here.
the water fountain, and I'm going to drink water out of the bubbler like a real man. Which, by the way, I didn't realize they call those things bubblers until I met my buddy who was from Wisconsin.
Water fountains are called bubblers?
Yeah.
I have a friend in Wisconsin. I have several friends in Wisconsin. I should act. So first we had the gray duck in Minnesota, and we have bubblers in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's strictly a Wisconsin thing, because I've heard other people refer to it as a bubbler. But
Maybe
we were playing in
coming out
our
of the fountain.
we had like a little 3-on-3 league at the Columbus YMCA. And so we had a water fountain. I just used to call them drinking or water fountains. And
I'll be back. I have to go use the loo.
he did. He goes, did you guys see a bubbler anywhere? Like, a what? He's like, a bubbler, a drinking fountain. Oh, a drinking fountain? Yeah, right there. What did you call it? And he said a bubbler. And he looked at me like I was insane. I'm like, I've never heard anybody refer to it as a bubbler.
You didn't yell at him. Pack up your rape culture and take a hike.
What is this bubbler you speak of? Oh, it was wild, man. But yeah, anyway, that's how I get down with my hydration at the gym. I go to the bubbler. I don't need the gallon because I think that's just for show.
I'm going to use the water closet.
Actually, there are a few times I'll bring a water bottle. That's fine. But yeah, the gallons, I don't. I should be more open-minded of, like, no, that's just maybe they were former student athletes and they're just used to that.
They're just
used to it.
Responsible. They don't want to cramp.
Sometimes you get kind of grouchy. I figured you would be with me on this one.
Sometimes I'm always grouchy.
And you're not with me on this one? You're not judgmental if you see someone with
I'm judgmental. Don't get me wrong.
If you see a non-student athlete carrying around a gallon, or let's also give credit where credit's due, especially on days like this. If you are some of the brave men and women that are outside laborers,
get them too.
You can have as many jugs of water, and I will not even bat an eye. In fact, I will gladly give you some.
They deserve the big collar.
But yeah, like if you go to a gym and you see someone carrying around, especially if they look like they're try-hard guy or woman,
okay,
and they're carrying around a water jug, do you think like, man, they're getting after it? Or does the part of you think, are they doing that for show? Are they going to drink all that water before they leave the gym?
Well, it depends. Are they doing anything, or are they just standing around, moving from machine?
That's true.
Machine?
And we could
they're
do
not
it.
Really doing anything, but they're just walking around.
We could do a completely different show.
Their hair is like perfectly gelled.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Really?
We could do a completely different show on gym guy and woman, because there is that guy and that gal where you're like, are you really
have your
doing
grunters?
anything? Yeah. Is this just the social scene for you? Is this the pickup place for you?
You're here to pick up chicks.
Yeah. Are you scheming on guys?
Actually, I'm still not judging, though.
No. Hey, you do you. But yeah, and I don't make it. Don't make it vocal. Like, yeah. I'm just these are the thoughts that come through my head. I'm like, okay. Like one time I was on a treadmill at the gym, and somebody had like what do they call those masks? The high altitude training mask.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had one of those.
Like you're at Mile High.
Yeah, they had one of those on. I'm like,
I should be judging. What is wrong with me today? Am I softening up the longer I'm here?
Maybe. I just kind of like, do you really need that?
I've been a curmudgeon since at least 1989.
And it was like, if it's someone who looks like maybe they have airflow issues. But I was just like, we're in Omaha. We're not in Colorado.
Or York, even.
The
elevation's a little higher the further you go west.
In York, Nebraska?
Well, I mean, everything starts sloping up as you go further west. It's science. I mean, the elevation here could be 80 feet. I mean, it could be 84 in York. That's still up.
Because there are just certain accessories that I think people maybe sport during workouts that have absolutely no like nutritional or like health benefit, but they look different, and it makes it look like they are taking their training serious. Tell me why someone would need a elevation training mask on a treadmill in a gym in West Omaha.
They look like Ivan Drago and his.
They look like Bane.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe it's because they want to look like Bane.
Sometimes it might be like.
Actually, that would be pretty cool, especially if the shaved head.
Did they have a shaved head?
No.
No.
And it was probably a kid. I say a kid because I'm in my 40s, but
So he was 39.
A young man in his 20s.
Young whippersnapper.
But yeah, he was on the treadmill and he
was making a tick-tock.
He had the elevation training mask. And I'm just thinking to myself, am I doing this wrong? Should I be doing that? I don't know. But it looked cool. Looked like just like when you bring in a jug of water.
And then when
you're not a student athlete, it just makes it look like you want it more than I do.
And then when he got in, he slipped into his Crocs with the little things that are
Probably.
attached to him and with socks on. And
Yep.
This is what the kids do.
Wear the crew socks.
Yeah. Don't throw anything away because it all comes back.
It does. It's true.
So your puka shell necklace that you're finally getting around to throwing away that you had in high school, keep it.
When I could see any part of my sock in athletic shoes, I thought I was the biggest nerd. Now it's like
it's the thing.
Now the no-shows are like out. Like,
I
what are you?
No,
you're not wearing socks?
You
the
stick
hell?
to the no-shows because they'll come back.
Oh, I'm keeping the no-shows.
I just itchy.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, like I used to laugh at like my dad when he would wear slides and socks.
You're not supposed to do that.
Now that's
nerd.
cool. Now it's cool.
Now, yeah, it's like, huh?
Well, the kids are doing
Dad,
it.
I'm sorry. You were a trendsetter. You were an influencer before influencers existed.
Isn't it amazing how we got into this? We were just talking about
the hell were we talking about?
Heat. We were talking about the Heat, and it was a big topic yesterday.
The Heat was worse when we were kids.
The bottom line is they all got through it. They will continue to get through it, and they got the recovery methods at University of Nebraska Lincoln with their facilities to allow them to get through those types of recoveries on hot days. Yeah.
Coming up next, we reminisce of the VCR.
Although Ethan Piper was talking about it, and I feel bad because I think we all have this friend. Maybe you are that person in your friend group. We all have that friend that just sweats profusely, and it doesn't even need to be a super hot day. But if you get them around a super hot day, it's like really bad to the point that you really
they
feel
look like
bad
an
for
umpire in Atlanta on July night. You know when they wore the light blue, and you could just
and you see the perspiration, and you see the
you look like Bruce Pearl, Sean Miller.
Yeah, Ethan Piper apparently is that guy. That's what I gauged from him talking yesterday is that he's a heavy sweater. So, but he's also one of those guys going to have his jugs of water.
Here. Yeah, well, that's why.
And he gets he was the one who kind of educated us on the saliva count and the hydration and then was watching. I think it was Alex Bullock talking about it yesterday on the a look in of their hydration number and what they try to achieve. So there's essentially no excuse to have a sluggish productive day.
No, that's a thing. I one time I was making a number one, as the kids call it, before a game in Austin that I was calling. I wasn't playing in a game, but
did you go off the color scale?
Yeah. Well, they had a chart in there, the color scale, and
I've seen
it said you're a selfish teammate if it's dark yellow, and then at championship level hydration.
Oh, it did.
It says you're a selfish teammate.
Urine shamed you?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't
I'm
know
over
that.
there like. I mean, I'm just doing radio, but looking by this, there's a lot of coffee involved in this, and we tied one on at the hotel bar last night. Wow, I guess I'm a failure.
I didn't know they had charts that would urine shame you.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Yeah, they're down with the urine shaming in Austin.
That's pretty extreme there. Okay,
exactly, and so then it's championship level hydration, and
which is clear, I bet.
Yeah,
be able to see through that.
Yeah.
All right, now you're educated on that as well. Hour number 2. We are going to get into a lot of Nebraska football game-by-game predictions.
Talking the gym. Okay.
Omaha World Herald has their game-by-game predictions. CBS Sports has their Big Ten predictions. Again, the game-by-game predictions in one team that continues to stand out that a lot of people have Nebraska maybe stumbling against. I got to say.
By the way, the emojis on that article.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very creative. It was very Matt Rule-esque, which I know was
the
reason behind it. It was it was a very good way of doing that this year. Well done, boys. We will get into that. Hour 2, mornings, Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From LeBackland Plumbing, time-saving traffic center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a bit of a slowdown near 175th and Center. Then on L, there's some delay near 108th. And along Highway 370, be prepared for some significant slowdowns from 144th all the way to the I-80 East and West ramps. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Lanahaw Nurseries.
At Lanahaw, our homegrown trees boast the most vibrant colors of fall, reds, yellows, and oranges. Shop our garden center today for the best selection of plant material and seasonal decor. When you think fall, think Lanahaw, 192nd and Center.
Here's today's Husker Max Practice Report, brought to you by Tickets for Less on 1180 and 1620 The Zone.
Husker head coach Matt Rule said he'll release a depth chart this week for their game against Minnesota, but he believes there's a lot of players that can see the field and some position battles are still going on.
In my mind, there's sort of a line, that we're going to play the guys that we think are above the line, and we're trying to get other guys above the line. So, there might be a guy who's a starter. I couldn't tell you, who's the starter, Cam Lenhart or Blaze Gunnarsson. The answer is yes. They're both starters.
Speaking of position battles, at this point in the camp, the backup quarterback job between Heinrich Harburg and Chubba Purdy is too close to call.
I think it's both of them right now. I think they both are ready to lead. I think they both are, we can win with both of them. Yeah, I say that because they bring different attributes to the table.
Rule said that Harburg's attributes are run first, then pass, while Purdy is a pass first quarterback, then run. For The Zone, I'm Matt McMaster.
The Husker Max Practice Report, brought to you by Tickets for Less on 1180 and 1620 The Zone.
Attention all Nebraska Huskers football fans. Get ready for an electrifying season of college football with Tickets for Less. Experience the thrill of the game and witness the power of a new era under our exciting new head coach. And here's the best part. Use promo code THEZONE to score incredible savings on your Husker tickets from Tickets for Less. Whether you're cheering from the stands at Memorial or plan to catch a game on the road, Tickets for Less has the seats you need. Don't miss out on this opportunity to be part of the Huskers journey. Visit ticketsforless.com and use promo code THEZONE today.
Hey folks, is your concrete in need of repair? Kent Pavelka here to talk about your local concrete experts and a Best of Omaha winner, Everlevel Concrete Repair. They can completely restore and repair your concrete at a fraction of the price compared to replacement and offer long-term transferable warranties. I'm so glad I chose Everlevel for my driveway. There's a reason they're a Best of Omaha winner. Give them a call for your free inspection. That's Everlevel, Everlevel, Everlevel. Try saying that 3 times fast.
Shop amazing deals on mattresses during NFM's Labor Day sale. Get up to 55% off suggested retail on qualifying mattresses. Plus, get a free adjustable base and 2 free memory foam pillows with qualifying purchases. Right now, shop deals on Tempur-Pedic. A queen Tempur-Pedic is just $19.99. And ask about 72-month equal payment Tempur-Pedic financing on qualifying purchases. See store for details. Plus, express next day delivery. Only at NFM. Local metro areas. Minimum monthly payments required. 18% APR. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-434-3366. That's 1-800-434-3366. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-434-3366. That's 1-800-434-3366.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
Join Sharp and Handley this Thursday from 6 to 10 when they officially kick off 1620 The Zone's Redout Week, presented by Union Bank and Trust. Gary and Nick discuss Nebraska's first game in Minnesota in the 2023 season. It's Sharp and Handley season kickoff, presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. Thursday, 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone.
Let it fly. Your elevated sports bar experience. KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Very appropriate song. Hour 2. More Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone. Nick and Jimmy with you.
Makes me think of Die Hard 3.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Had to think about that one for a moment. I'm going to have an update with Jimmy in a little while. Also going to be talking to Parker Gabriel as we do our Wednesday NFL camping. We're going to talk some Denver Broncos with Mark. Also,
do I look Puerto Rican to you? Not Jesus. Hey, Zeus.
See, then when you bring up Jesus, then I think of Jesus from The Big Lebowski. Paul Lamanji, Omaha West Side. The football coach will join us at 8:30, and also Brandon Vogel at 9:40. Going to get into this very creative way of the game-by-game predictions that the Omaha World Herald put out yesterday.
It really was a good.
Because they went the emoji game. They went the Matt Rule emoji game, which
very cool.
I think it's great because there's a lot of those that we're still trying to understand the Matt Rule emoji like conversion chart of what it means, and I think that whole mystique is what makes it fun. But I do want to go to the Equitable Bank inbox where they take it personally.
You're going to throw yourself under the bus.
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Because Chris comes to correct me.
Hi, Chris.
And you know what? When sometimes I like to go on tangents and make fun of stuff, and I'm not well educated on why something is what it is.
Apparently an admiral in the Air Force.
Yes, and that was actually, I did know that, and I completely slipped up on that one. Naval aviator.
Didn't sleep.
I didn't sleep last night. But Chris educates me on the elevation training masks. He said, you do know what elevation training masks are for, right? They reduce airflow, so you train your lungs diaphragm to breathe deeper, so you increase your airflow and thus increase stamina. You said you thought it would be something someone in Colorado would have, not someone in West Omaha. But the point is to stimulate lower oxygen, higher elevation environments. That was the whole thought behind having the Olympic Training Center in Colorado. So athletes would build up endurance, lung capacity in that environment, so they would have an advantage at lower elevations. And Chris just dropped the mic on me. The whole time I thought people in Omaha that had them were doing it just so they'd look cool. Seriously. So the more you know. No, I appreciate that, Chris, because honestly, I saw a lot of people like wearing them in like hardcore like training environments, but not at a gym in West Omaha. So I, being the cynic that I am, just assumed that this was somebody trying to look cool. And I'm not convinced he wasn't.
He was? Yeah.
Even with the great breakdown that Chris gave me right there, which is very educational. And I got to admit, I didn't know all that. So I do appreciate that, Chris. I still am not convinced, though, the gentleman that was on the treadmill was using it for that purpose. I still think that there was maybe a accessory involved of like, well, this just looks cool. This just makes it look like I train harder than you and I want it more than you. What's up? But no, I mean, that is very good information. And I'm probably, as I am in a lot of occasions when it comes to things like this, when I go out on a limb and do not know anything about the actual science behind something, I do appreciate that. But yeah, I just thought it looked cool. I thought that's why they wore it. So.
And for all we know, he did.
I know, exactly.
Chris is just giving you the logic behind why people normally wear them.
Now, he
wasn't speaking for him.
Was Johnny West Omaha gym guy wearing it for that reason? I don't know. I tend to be a cynic.
Oh, I definitely am.
Seen too many of that guy at the gym where I'm just like, okay, I'm sure you're right, but I'm not convinced that's why he did it. Anyway, moving on. But do appreciate the email. The game-by-game predictions for Nebraska, according to the Omaha World Herald. Evan Bland and Sam McEwen put out a good game-by-game breakdown using the emojis, using the Matt Rule emoji game, which was a lot of fun.
The Louisiana Tech ones mean. I mean,
yeah, so
my mind goes to a place that I don't think they intended to go.
For Minnesota, you get the emoji with like the bandages on the head, like, injured.
Yeah.
Then you get the broken heart emoji, and then you get the night landscape.
I'm surprised
emoji.
There's not a boat.
Yeah, no boat. For the Minnesota game, they've got
Colorado's good.
Gophers winning 24-17. For the Colorado game, yeah, you get the yawning because of an early game. The party, which, yeah, it's going to be a big party in Colorado, in Boulder. And then you get the Buffalo emoji. They've got Nebraska coming out on top of that one, 38-17. Northern Illinois, you get a house, a ruler, and a party favor emoji.
Be a party.
Mm-hmm. Because it is a 6 o'clock game. Party. And the outcome would be a little closer-ish game. Nebraska winning by 11, 31-20. The Louisiana Tech one is
I just don't get this.
A jogger, and then you've got like the cloud, although the way the guy's jogging and the way the cloud is coming out,
did
it almost
he have
looks
some like Bush Light
yeah,
Amigos the night before?
It's almost like he's tooting. is kind of what it looks like. And then there's a fire emoji.
That's sauerkraut for breakfast.
The fire emoji, I think, usually means like you're on fire, like good stuff. And according to their score prediction, they have Nebraska winning 48-24 against La Tech. Michigan is a emoji of a smiley, not a smiley face, but the face emoji of the ooh, with the eyebrows raised, then a cringe emoji face, and then the ghost emoji face. And you could probably see where that one's going. It would be a Michigan win.
I mean, you take this, so it's not embarrassing.
No, it's not. 31-17. I think context of the game to me would matter. I mean,
Yeah,
is it like
31-0 in the first
exactly? Is
quarter?
it 31-0 and then all of a
Don't
sudden Nebraska
think
does
so.
some scraping there in the fourth? Illinois, and I won't go through all of these. You can check these out on Omaha.com.
They're good.
They are good though. It's pretty fun. They've got Nebraska losing to Illinois. They've got Nebraska defeating Northwestern pretty convincingly, very reminiscent of 2021. They've got Nebraska edging out Purdue 21-17. They've got Nebraska losing to Michigan State on the road 24-20. Nebraska beating Turtle 27-23.
They use a turtle.
Which in this case would be the sixth win if you're following along. And then they've got back-to-back losses against Wisconsin. The score for Wisconsin, they've got 28-14 affair, and then a 1-point win for Iowa, 24-23. I want to get back to
6-4.
a team
not 6-4, 6-6.
that I'm not convinced is because a lot of people have chalked this up as a loss. And I guess the whole game-by-game thing to me is, again, extremely tough to do without knowing what this team is going to look like. But it's an exercise that we all take part in just because it's what we do. I am not high, nor do I think it's going to be this epic challenge in East Lansing in game number 9 for Michigan State. I think the loss of Keon Coleman is significant. I'm on the record saying I think Peyton Thorne is a guy you could probably replace, but he was a 2-year starting quarterback as well. I think Michigan State's defense will be its strength, but I do not believe in their offense. To me, Michigan State feels like a 5-7 team. And giving you actual scores, because I've seen, I think, 3 now that have put out the game-by-game predictions that all have Nebraska losing to Michigan State. And it's not like by a huge margin. And I think you're factoring in Michigan State defensively could be a pretty salty squad, but also being a road game. Well, if I'm looking at the Big Ten West the Big Ten East right now, I think Maryland finishes higher than Michigan State. Now, I understand Maryland is a home game against Nebraska. But I personally, if I were looking at those two games, I'd almost have them flip. If I got to choose, I think there's a chance, and I think the Michigan State game as well as the Maryland game are both swing games. But if I have to go 1-1 in that stretch, me personally, I'm more inclined to say Nebraska beats Michigan State and loses to Maryland. Now, that wouldn't be great for the goal of trying to hold serve at home and everything that we kind of talked about yesterday. I'm just not high on Michigan State.
I'm not either.
And I don't think that is this like overwhelmingly tough place to
I'm
play.
not afraid of this woodshed.
Right. I don't know. I've seen a lot of that with Michigan State, and I guess I need to be more convinced that what Michigan State did in 21 is a little bit closer to where they are. Now, if you look at what they did last year, okay, they went from 11-2 to 5-7. Is Michigan State somewhere in between? Because I think that would be the safe way to go if you're trying to assess Michigan State. Sort of caught lightning in the bottom. You had Kenneth Walker, who was a outstanding running back. You had some good things going defensively and offensively in that team. And, I mean, you look at some of the outcomes, Nebraska being one of those, where Nebraska had that game on lockdown until you had a bad decision when it came to a punt. You punted away from your coverage. You punted to the opposite side of the field, and that was the difference. Nebraska ends up losing that one in overtime. There was a lot of sort of those elements with Michigan State's run that year too, where, hey, sometimes it is when you have those memorable seasons, not all of them are going to be the prettiest performances. You got to have a little luck. So if you're Michigan State, you're not apologizing. But I think there's a little bit of fool's gold there too. When you go from 11-2 to 5-7, I would like to think that if Michigan State was a little bit more of a solid program under Mel Tucker, losing to Kenneth Walker is not going to essentially cost you a 6-game difference. So going from 11-2 to 5-7, I tend to think that Michigan State's closer to that 5-7 than they are that 11-2. I feel like this is, sort of a 5-7 win outfit right now. Now, Michigan State could come out this year. They could replace those offensive losses from the transfer portal. They could lean on their defense, and they could be a stout group. Sure, that's possible. But between the two seasons from Mel Tucker, and we don't count the COVID year, those two seasons of 11-2 and 5-7, what is this team? And maybe I'm just going off of how they looked a year ago and having the recency bias where they just did not look good at all. But I even thought in that 11-win season that they were gettable. They were just getting a lot of the breaks. So, again, I go to that game from a personnel standpoint and knowing what you have in some key positions, especially Maryland at quarterback with Talia Tagovailoa coming back. I would right now on this day feel like, okay, if they go 1-1 in that stretch, I'll say Nebraska loses to Maryland and not Michigan State. That's where I am on that. Now, I'm not convinced Nebraska goes 1-1 that stretch. Again, there's swing games. They could go 0-2. They could go 2-0. But if you're telling me that they go 1-1 in that stretch, I'd flip it. Now, I'm sure I'll be wrong. But I think Maryland has a better team than Michigan State. That's how I feel on this day. Maybe they'll prove otherwise, but that's how I feel on this day. So, and that's just one of those games that continues to stand out. And I think it's just all because of the fact that it's a road game and that Michigan State has the strength of their team this year is going to be their defense. I don't think they have anything offensively, though. So, and you get to that point of the season, if that defense is having to carry that team, the offense isn't giving them a lot to work with there. And maybe they will. Maybe they'll show that they've got some things figured out and they were able to replace some of those key starters that they lost to the transfer portal. But if you're leaning on that defense a lot, and by the time you get to week 9, defense might be broken down a little bit too. I don't know. It's just one that is kind of stood out to me. But with all of that, the Omaha World Herald has Nebraska going 6-6. Again, I think that is a pretty reasonable neighborhood to be. I think
good for our business.
I just, and the beauty of this season, as far as the interest level, is there are so many swing games on the schedule where a break here could give Nebraska a win against a team that maybe we did not think that they would beat, or at least is going to be a slight underdog. But as we know, it works the other way too. And will we get to that point where we don't? Because there was a time, and Jimmy, you know this. We always look at schedules and we say, okay, there's a win, there's a win, there's a win. We haven't been able to do that with Nebraska for a very long time. The way that's
been kind of the opposite.
Well, yeah,
there's a loss.
There's a loss. There's a loss.
That's going to be ugly.
And then when you get to some of those opponents that you know are not very good, you don't chalk them up as a win. You say there. I always call them. There's a chance to win. I say there's an opportunity.
We might win.
There's an opportunity. There's an opportunity. That team's gettable. But yeah, instead of like actually calling out wins, you have to now look at them as, well, there's an opportunity, because that's what they are. I mean, long gone are the days where we're going to be like, yep, win.
Oh, we're going to hang 70 then.
Yep, got that team. Yeah, we could play our backups and we got that team. No, it's opportunity there. I like that opportunity there. Oh, that's a good opportunity right there, too.
I bet I'll get free tickets to that game.
Like, I'd love to get to a place to where we can go back and look at the schedule like, well, yeah, they got that one. Yeah, they'll win that one. Yeah, that's a win, too. Where you can do that more than like once or twice. Because there's always going to be like that obvious one, whether you're playing an FCS team or a group of 5 team that just has no pulse. And you're like, yeah, okay, that's a win.
But when you can actually get lately have been.
I know. But when you get in conference play, Think about that. Like, I hate it. Back in the 90s, but even like 2000s, they're just teams that you had very solid history against, or teams that just historically weren't recruiting well, didn't have good coaching, or just were not heading in the right direction, that you felt you were in a much better place than they are. We haven't been able to say that about Nebraska when it comes to a lot of their conference opponents. I mean, hell, even Rutgers. Like, when you've watched Nebraska play Rutgers, these past seasons, when they show up on Nebraska's schedule, like last year, was anybody like, yep, that's a W Friday night? Oh, yeah, they got them. No. Like, that just gives you an idea of, again, the things that you'd like to achieve in year one, to where you can look at a schedule and feel pretty good the way you stack up against that team, to where you can confidently make that prediction of, yeah, it's a win in conference games, not in non-conference games. But yeah, keep your eye on that stretch. It's an interesting stretch for Nebraska. And we talked about this yesterday too, Jimmy, of what does this team look like in the second half of the season when they get through the bye week? And remember, that bye week comes after the Illinois game, and it's perfectly split down the middle. The bye week comes after the 6th game. So you got 6 games, bye week, second half, 6 games. The last 6 games, this is a very interesting stretch. And dare I say, Jimmy, opportunities. You come off of a bye week in a game that, regardless of what happens against Illinois, it is going to be physical, especially going up against that defensive line. It is going to be physical. You come out against Northwestern and Purdue, back-to-back home games. And based on a lot of people's metrics and predictions, those are the 2 teams that finish 6th and 7th in the Big Ten West. Then you have that road game against Michigan State. Then you come back home against Maryland before you have that final stretch at Wisconsin, home to Iowa. That 4-game swing, I'll even throw in that 4-game swing, Northwestern, Purdue, at Michigan State, Maryland. That right there, well, first of all, you could be in a position to stamp out a bowl season in that stretch. But as far as the optics of where this thing is going, given the fact that you're coming off of a bye week, we remember how Nebraska, out of bye weeks under Scott Frost, were not good. Can you establish yourself coming out of that bye week from the Illinois game to Northwestern, look solid, parlay that into another home game against Purdue where you look solid? If you could get to a 2-0 stretch there, and you're going on the road to play Michigan State, start to kind of like where maybe that team is, maybe they're feeling some confidence. Think about if they could go 4-0 in that stretch. And again, that's a big ask, but all of those games that I just listed, Northwestern, Purdue, at Michigan State, Maryland, would you consider those good opportunities? Is there one of those teams on that 4-game stretch that I just mentioned, Jimmy, that you'd say, no, there's a loss there? Any of them? Because I don't see one. Not saying I don't see Nebraska having a stumble there, but I don't see any of those teams where I'm like, yeah, that's not a good matchup. Not one of them. And you're coming off of a bye week.
No excuses.
You get a little something rolling there.
I mean, it's good because when it's in that portion of the schedule, it's a chance to kind of reset, get healthy, obviously, for the final push, and then in hopes that you're playing your best football down the stretch.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, like, all of a sudden, hey, look out, Wisconsin and Iowa, if Nebraska were to rattle off 4 in that one. What I would say is
getting better yourself.
Yep, you start to see this team make improvements, and with those improvements, the scoreboard reflects that as well. And during that stretch, you're able to solidify a bowl eligibility scenario. Well, at that point, playing free, you've accomplished something you haven't since 2016. The season is already a success right there. And I feel like if you've accomplished that still with 2 games to go, well, those last 2 games could be a lot of fun the way that this team approaches it. Not saying that if they don't, that all of a sudden they'll just hit the tank. But again, a lot of that stretch of games right there, to me, there's your season, in my opinion, when it comes to the win-loss record and how this team exits 2023. All right, when we come back, we got an update with Jimmy. We're also going to be talking some NFL football, Wednesday camp, and Parker Gabriel will talk some Denver Broncos and the Russell Wilson part of this conversation. Can Russell Wilson be fixed from what was a horrible season? Or is Russell Wilson simply maybe not as good as we thought? Can Sean Payton revitalize Russell Wilson? That and many more questions we have for Parker. Again, don't forget Omaha West Side head football coach Paul Lamanji joins us at 8:30, and we'll talk to Brandon Vogel as well. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley here on 1620 The Zone. Hey, game day is approaching in Nebraska, Minnesota next Thursday, but you've got preseason football. Best place to take in all of the football action is DJ's Dugout. This year just feels different for Nebraska football, and there's a renewed sense of excitement for a winning season. When it comes to watching Nebraska football or your favorite pro teams on game day, DJ's Dugout is truly an Omaha tradition to gather with family and friends. With DJ's huge media walls, great food and service, you can feel the excitement. For watching football, you might say DJ's Dugout rules. Locally and Vietnam veteran-owned, dig in at the Dugout.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
If there's a snail crawling towards me inside of the Omaha NRG studio, it's not going to be any other snail. That's just the one snail.
But when Nick and I bring a bag full of snails and dump them at your feet.
I'm not working with you two yahoos anymore.
snail pickup.
I'm not gonna work with you anymore.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Excessive heat warning continues Wednesday. Expect hot, humid, and breezy conditions as winds turn more out of the southwest. Expect mostly to partly sunny skies with afternoon highs around 100. Several hours with feels-like temperatures between 105 and 115 degrees. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Ditch the glasses, ditch the contacts for good by visiting KuglerVision.com.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Backland Plumbing, time-saving traffic center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but we're still getting reports of those traffic signals flashing red along 204th at Harrison Street, so please be cautious if you're in that area. On Industrial Road, be prepared for a little bit of slowdown near 149th, and on Dodge, things are slowing down quite a bit from 80th to 69th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Signworks.
Since 1935, businesses all around Omaha have trusted one sign company with their visual branding, Signworks. We design, manufacture, and install signs of all kinds, including high-tech message centers like the new installation at Steelhouse Omaha. We can make your sign too. Signworksomaha.com.
As a veteran, you get a lot of advice. But wisdom's harder to come by. A lot of people imagine themselves in our shoes without understanding the weight on our shoulders. The truth is, few can understand the pressure of finding your own way after serving in the military. But few isn't none. You've got support. You can't control the chaos, but you can chart your way through it. Steady yourself. Take a breath. You're not alone. Learn more at maketheconnection.net.
Shop Sid Dillon Chevrolet, Nebraska's #1 volume Chevy dealer. Visit any of our 4 locations for your new Chevy or pre-owned vehicle or at siddillonchevy.com. Chevy, find new roads.
You are what drives us, Sid Dillon.
Summer may be over, but the savings are hotter than ever with the end of summer sale at 42 Degrees. Going on now at all locations. Save big time on Kratom, Delta, disposables and e-juice, and a whole lot more with prices up to 50% off. And the friendliest, most knowledgeable, and professional staff will find just the right products for you. Check out 42degrees.com. The end of summer sale. By your mom's house.
One of this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
It's the most time-honored tradition to start the weekend, grabbing a cold one from a local Nebraska brewery. Let's be real here. It's hot outside, and you don't want to drink the same boring beer as those Hawkeye fans. Drink icy cold, Nebraska-brewed beer, cider, or seltzers instead. Each week, we're putting the spotlight on a unique Nebraska brewery with One Beer Friday. Share your brew on social media with the hashtag One Beer Friday, and you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card to a local Nebraska brewery. Nebraska is the good life with great beer. Click nebraska.beer to learn more.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
This hour is powered by Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair, Nebraska on 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Bender, a two-way standout from suburban Oklahoma City. Commits.
Hell of a name, by the way.
Yeah.
Sounds like a baseball player right there.
He just gave it away. He commits to Nebraska baseball. That's okay. And immediately becomes a potential headliner for 2024 class, which now has 15 from 9 different states. Bender turned down nearly half a dozen other D1 offers, including Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Oral Roberts. So pretty good Oklahoma baseball programs there wanted this kid. He commits to play for the Big Red. A great name. Not related to John Bender.
And for people that are kind of following the new reshuffled coaching staff for Nebraska baseball, obviously with Rob Childers now as the full-time pitching coach, and the new addition with Mike Sirianni, that's your impact right there. Yep. Mike Sirianni and his ability to recruit. He was a very good recruiter at Wichita State as well. Knows that area extremely well, and they're doing some things down there, not just in the Texas area where obviously Rob Childers and Will Bolt have connections to as well, but also being able to go into places like Oklahoma, places like Kansas, and especially in Jimmy, you know this, that Jayhawk Conference. There's so many good junior college players that come out of that area too. That is all, from everything I've been told, that is all Mike Sirianni's wheelhouse. So awesome get from everything that I've heard about this young man. But also, as you mentioned, key thing there, the teams that you were recruiting against to get that is no small task.
And a great name, spelled Pryce, Price Bender.
Yes.
Due to an excessive heat forecast, the start time for a Creighton women's soccer match at St. Louis on Thursday, that's tomorrow, has been moved back 1 hour. I'm sure that'll make a big difference. Blue Jays and Billikens are scheduled to kick off at 5 p.m., but now we'll kick off at 6 p.m. The hot no matter what. Whatever.
I
That'll
think
fix it.
that was the whole thing I was thinking about, like mowing it like this evening as opposed to like this afternoon. And like I told you yesterday, I took my dog outside that was a Monday night at like 9. It was still like disgustingly hot out. So I guess you reduce the sun's impact, maybe. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be hot.
Yeah, most guys know when it's that humid, you got to lift the boys just to walk. You know what I mean?
Get that goal on.
That's a South Texas thing. Trust me.
Yeah.
11 o'clock, that wind turns off. It's still 90 degrees.
Get a lot of swass.
You're dragging a couple things on the ground just to walk.
Yeah.
Anyway, a former USC running back, Reggie Bush, will file a defamation lawsuit against the NCAA on Wednesday, according to his lawyers. All right, Reggie, get him. Bush will speak at a news conference at the LA Coliseum later this morning. This all, of course, has to do with Bush's attempt to have his 2005 Heisman Trophy reinstated, which it should be. Bush forfeited the trophy in 2010 after a 4-year extra benefits investigation determined that he and family members, while he was a student athlete, accepted cash, travel expenses, and a home in the San Diego area where Bush's parents lived rent-free for more than a year, in which they were provided $10,000 to furnish. The Heisman Trophy Trust has long maintained that because Bush's 2005 season was vacated by the NCAA, he was not eligible to win. We saw it. Trust me. There's no vacation.
Yeah, he was good.
He was good. However, if the NCAA were to officially restore his records, it is expected that Bush's trophy would be returned. I go back to the Trojan War 30 for 30 and what Snoop said about Reggie, or about, I can't quote what Uncle Snoop said about what to do and make them come get that trophy, but he's right. Like, I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Come in here and find it. You can't get in here.
For a lot of the same reasons I laugh at the whole vacating of wins.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I understand there needs to be some consequences and repercussions when it comes to violations of rules. I'm not trying to say there shouldn't be, but this whole attempt to like pull a Men in Black type thing and put our eyes in front of like the memory eraser, like come on. And like you said,
we watched
that season. We saw what he did. If you want to say, well, he technically doesn't have the Heisman Trophy, that's on you. I'm not going to. I'm not going to entertain that whatsoever.
November 19th, 2005. I've never seen a bar pretty much just freeze. I mean,
yeah,
you have dirt off your shoulders playing, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because everybody's glued to this giant TV and watching Reggie be a PlayStation game against Fresno State.
It's the same thing when you have to vacate like a undefeated season. And
okay, we saw it happen.
It's like, oh, so I'm now I need to erase that out of my memory.
The Fab Five. Oh, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Oh, so that really wasn't a thing, even though
yes,
it was.
It did. It happened.
It was not only just a sports phenomenon, but it was a culture phenomenon. But I'm supposed to forget about that.
No, I'm
okay.
Speaking of forgetting, the White Sox would love to forget this season in baseball. The Chicago White Sox fired Executive Vice President Ken Williams, who's been there for a long time, General Manager Rick Hahn. The White Sox ended the day with an awful 49-77 record. They're starting to challenge the Royals. They're 16. Of course, they're only 16 games behind the first place Twins. So technically, they could get on a heater here and get back in it. They lost 6-3 to the red-hot Seattle Mariners last night. The organization went through a stated rebuild in the past decade, culminating in playoff appearances in both 2020, we don't talk about that season, and 2021, but won a total of only 2 postseason games during those years. The White Sox went 81-81 last season before cratering this year amidst dysfunction within the clubhouse. And if you've been following this, it's just been going on for a long time. Williams was with the team since 1992, since the Ron Karkovice days, working his way up in various roles, including general manager. He oversaw the team that won the 2005 World Series. I'm still bitter about that. At least won one game before being promoted to executive vice president in 2012. That's the same year the team promoted Hahn to general manager. So they've had the stability there. It was coming, though. It's been bad almost from the get-go.
Well, and if you go back to the COVID season where they make the playoffs, and you could see that team was built to really make some runs.
Had some good players.
Oh, yeah.
Good teams.
And you had a good pitching staff. You had some pop in the lineup. You were in a position to be I thought anyway, paying a lot of attention to that division especially, that was going to be a White Sox team that was probably going to be relevant in the postseason for the next 3 years.
They were really high on Pedro Grifol, and I don't know if he's where he's going to stand after this. I personally think you got to try and give it a chance here. I mean,
I thought with what they had with Dylan Cease, Giolito, and Lynn, that rotation right there, especially when Cease learned how to throw strikes. Like, that dude was nasty.
And this is why they're disappointment, because they have some good players on that
Yes.
team, but it's just been a mess.
Yeah. It's probably
they won on opening night. It's been downhill ever since.
It's one of the bigger disappointments. I mean, we can look at the Mets. The Mets is a huge disappointment, especially with the payroll and what they put into trying to put together a championship team. That's a huge disappointment, no question. Cardinals at a different level are a huge disappointment. But I think over the last 3 years, the way that roster was constructed, the way that they developed some of those younger guys, and where that thing looked like in the 2020 season and where it is now.
Gone backwards.
Oh, yeah.
You got to start over.
That to me, in a 3-year stretch, is a huge, huge, huge disappointment. And we thought it was all because of the weird clubhouse culture of Tony La Russa. We're learning that it goes maybe it was just so broken under Tony La Russa that this is the after effects. But I think what we've seen now, I don't think you can pin all of that on Tony La Russa, especially in a 162 game schedule where this team looks no better than they did a year ago. In fact, worse in a lot of ways.
The Yankees extended a losing streak to 9 for the first time in 41 years. They snatched out defeat from the jaws of victory with a hit and go ahead homer in the 8th inning. A 2-1 loss to the Washington Nationals last night. Winless since beating the Marlins on August 11th in Miami. The Yankees are on their first 9-game skid since September 13th, 1982. The final month of a 79-win season when they employed 3 managers, Bob Lemon, Gene Michael, and Clyde King. I think they ended up hiring Billy Martin again after that. New York has been outscored 53-20 and has not held the lead since the second inning of its 11-3 loss in Atlanta. And that was more than a week ago on August 14th. But you know what? It could be worse if for the White Sox, the Yankees, Mets, anyone else that's disappointing, Cardinals. You could employ Wander Franco. That'd be worse.
Yes. Wander Franco, who
wants to be optioned to the minors for different reasons.
Well done. Also placed on leave, too.
Yeah.
Didn't know that one.
Yeah. Way to piss away possibly $200 million. Wow.
That was good.
What a mess.
Well played.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. When we come back, speaking of Major League Baseball, there was a welcome back for one of the game's brightest stars, but it again underscores where this current organization stands in the postseason race of how truly disappointing it has been to see a tandem this good and this talented continue to fall short. We'll get into that and back to some Husker football. Talk with Parker Gabriel, talk some Denver Bronco football, and Paul Lamanji of Omaha Westside will join us in the 8 o'clock hour. That's still all ahead here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, now is the time to shop during the Season of Discovery event over at Woodhouse Mazda and check out the Mazda CX-30 today. You're going to enjoy a sleek and stylish SUV that turns heads on the road. Spacious interior, versatile cargo space, user-friendly infotainment system with Apple CarPlay, or if you're like me, Android Auto integration. It comes with standard iActive all-wheel drive. It helps maintain traction no matter the destination, plus several trim options. It's going to let you get the Mazda you want, more importantly, with the features you want. Now available, 2 convenient locations, Woodhouse Mazda in Bellevue and Woodhouse Place Mazda in West Omaha, 144th and Giles Road. Shop, finance, buy online at WoodhouseMazda.com or WoodhousePlaceMazda.com. Friendly and knowledgeable sales staff. It is a team that understands how valuable your time is and will offer you always a streamlined purchasing experience. You can chat with a sales team member online, schedule a test drive, check vehicle availability. You can customize your deal with many financing options to choose from. It's Woodhouse Mazda, a drive worth experiencing.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Big names, big games. We've got them all. 1620 The Zone.
Many people go back to the dealership out of habit or because they think the dealer is the only one who knows how to fix their car. At Omaha Car Care, we offer a better option. We have ASE certified technicians, the technology to service any vehicle, and free loaner cars. The dealer will sell you a package of services. We'll provide the service you want for your car as your trusted partner. I'm Rick Betker, owner of Omaha Car Care, and we'll be along for the ride.
No matter how dark it gets, there's always a sunrise, a warm bed, a warm meal, and hope. Sienna Francis House serves hope to those experiencing homelessness and addiction. Every day, We provide more than 1,000 meals and serve nearly 500 guests in our emergency shelter, Miracles Recovery Program, and supportive housing apartments, and help our guests navigate a path to permanent housing. Learn more at siennafrancis.org.
To your left, our new exhibit, Monarchs of Springfield. And right here, we have our empty tour guide stand.
The last time Bryn hired someone is ancient history.
Sir, excuse me, that's not part of the exhibit.
They need tour guides who know the museum ropes.
Hey, kid, you like wearing khakis? I got a job for you.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Turnpike Troubadours and the Avon Brothers are coming to Lincoln August 24th at Pinnacle Bank Arena.
On long hot summer day.
2 headliners, 1 night. Get your tickets now for Turnpike Troubadours and the Avon Brothers with Muscadine Bloodline at Ticketmaster.com. Turnpike Troubadours and the Avon Brothers. Don't miss Turnpike Troubadours and the Avon Brothers August 24th at Pinnacle Bank Arena, presented by Mammoth.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks. Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long. And with Babbel, it isn't hard. It's perfect.
And now, try Babbel free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Join Sharp and Handley this Thursday from 6 to 10 when they officially kick off 1620 The Zone's Redout Week, presented by Union Bank and Trust. Gary and Nick discuss Nebraska's first game in Minnesota in the 2023 season. It's Sharp and Handley's season kickoff, presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. Thursday, 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
On 1620 The Zone. Listen all week as we prepare for another season of college football. The Zone will bring you daily coverage, breaking news, and more. Redout Week is presented by Union Bank and Trust. Get all the details now at 1620thezone.com. And now to talk more about sports, here's Nick Handley.
Oh, thank you. Well done, Jimmy. And talking about sports, there's a lot of me that kind of feels for LA Angel fans because, you go back to the trade deadline when the Angels said we're not going to trade Shohei Ohtani. And yes, a lot of that had to do with we're going to continue to have our attendance numbers be what they are with
the Angels are a dumpster fire.
The greatest in the game being represented on a daily basis, and that's good for business. But I think there was also a competitive element that I was intrigued by, especially when the Angels decided to make some moves at the trade deadline, including a guy that I've been high on for a long time. In fact, we were just talking about the White Sox and Lucas Giolito, adding an arm to that rotation. Then knowing that you're probably getting one of the most important people, and it's almost kind of like a trade deadline addition because he'd been injured for so long, and that was Mike Trout, coming off of that fractured hamate bone. Well, he returned last night. And what I think was very appropriate in a loss for the Angels and a constant reminder of how truly underwhelming the Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani combination of two of the brightest stars in Major League Baseball and what has come of that in their time together. Because, I don't know, maybe I'm alone, but the amount of coverage, I get the LA market, it's a big market, it's going to get a lot of attention. The amount of coverage that the Angels get, you would think year in and year out they are a juggernaut. You would think if you've got Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, they would be a juggernaut, that you'd have enough pieces in that organization, both from the pitching staff and complementary defensive players in the lineup, that would be able to put LA in a much better position. And they have had, since the trade deadline, some just awful baseball. And now looking at a team that is 4 games below 500, a team that is all but sunk in any type of postseason opportunity. It's the same old thing for this Angels organization, and that is mediocre baseball with an organization, a roster. I should say an organization, because I know there's some issues with the organization too, but a roster that should be far better than 10 games out of the wild card. So it's kind of like, yay, Mike Trout returns. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they're done.
They are. And at the trade deadline, had you told me, okay, you're going to get Lucas Giolito, you're going to make some moves, and Mike Trout's going to be coming back here soon, given where they were at that moment, I thought, okay, they've got a shot. It's just amazing to me, the way that this roster has been put together, the way that this organization has tried to build around two absolute key pieces of that organization, and they continue to fail to do so. So you are going to go Shohei and Mike Trout teamed up together, because Shohei's not coming back. Shohei and Mike Trout, you are going to go yet another year without a postseason appearance, and that those two together will have never reached the postseason. That, to me, is an absolute crying shame. It is a
big failure.
It's a huge crying shame. So happy to see Mike Trout back in baseball, because the game's better when he's healthy. Unfortunately for Mike Trout, not his fault. The guy's injured a lot. I mean, he is. That's the truth of it. Never blame him. Never say, well, it's his fault and he's trying to get. No. I mean, the guy's had horrible luck when it comes to injuries, and that's a big part of it. But to not be able to get more out of that combination and to build around that combination is just an absolute travesty, given how talented those two are. It's more of the same as they are continuing to sink. I mean, again, 10 games out of the wild card. Yeah, that ain't happening. You know who's a half game behind them? The Yankees. And they've lost 9 in a row. To give you some context, right?
But hey, if they were in the Central, they'd be all right.
Yes, they would. All right, we're going to shift it over to talking NFL camps, and we're going to take a look at some Denver Bronco camp storylines with our good friend Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post. He joins us on the other side of the break here in Mornings at Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From Backland Plumbing, time-saving traffic center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but we're still getting reports of those traffic signals flashing red along 204th at Harrison Street, so please be cautious if you're in that area. On Industrial Road, be prepared for a little bit of slowdown near 149th, and on Dodge, things are slowing down quite a bit from 80th to 69th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
What does Saul's loan on? Almost everything, like jewelry, gold chains, bracelets, earrings, wedding rings, and high-end watches, guns, electronics, $10 to $50,000, super fast and easy with no credit check. Saul's loans on almost everything.
Did you know that radon is the #1 cause of lung cancer for non-smokers, and that our region has some of the highest levels in the country? Radon Defense Midwest can test and fix your home. Visit radonradio.com for an exclusive offer for 1620 The Zone listeners. That's radonradio.com.
Happy birthday to us. That's right. We're turning 50 this year, and we're celebrating with you. Introducing my new birthday cake streusel, topped with vanilla cake and crunchy streusel, a swirl of white icing, and showered with rainbow sprinkles. Paired with our classic combo, the one that started it all, and your favorite one-topping pizza. Happy birthday feast. Enjoy one today. Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
Attention Husker Nation. Second in queue. Only $10 for adults and $5 for children. Sponsored by Ray Martin Company and Mama's Pizza.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
1620 The Zone is your place for all things Nebraska football. And starting Thursday, we bring Redout Week presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. Sharp and Handley in the morning, the Connor Happer Show, and Unsportsmanlike Conduct bring you daily coverage, stories, and breaking news, concluding with our Redout Week lunch, Thursday, August 31st at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, where all of our hosts are together for a 1620 The Zone discussion like you've never heard before. It's Redout Week on 1620 The Zone, presented by Union Bank and Trust.
Break out your bell bottoms and platform shoes when the Omaha Storm Chasers throw it back on 70s night, August 24th at Warner Park. Enjoy 70s themed food, drinks, music, and even throwback 70s inspired Omaha Royals jerseys. You'll think you're at the disco. Don't miss your chance to bring back the grooviest decade. Get your tickets at omahastormchasers.com.
Omaha Storm Chasers family. Everyone get on your feet, stir up the storm with family.
This hour is powered by Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair, Nebraska on 1620 The Zone. Let it fly. Your elevated sports bar experience. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Hart Cigars and Pipes Lounge, just off 680 and 48th Street next to Cubby's. It's Hart Cigars and Pipes Lounge.
Hour 3, morning, Sharp and Handley and Jimmy, 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. Always a good day when we can talk some NFL football with one of our favorites, the alum of covering Husker football in the Lincoln Journal-Star, now with the Denver Post. Parker Gabriel joins us on the 42-degree hotline. Good morning, Parker. How are you, buddy?
Morning, guys. I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing well. And now what's on the agenda today for Denver Bronco training camp?
Oh, it's a good day. It's too bad we're past the fan attendance portion of the which is unfortunate because today's the first of two joint practices with the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, okay. Now, when you have the fans in attendance and for what you do on a daily basis, is that more enjoyable or is it a little more chaotic?
It's not more chaotic. It is more enjoyable because there's a little bit of an atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it's always good. And then functionally speaking, it makes a little bit of a difference. A little bit inside, but it's fine. A little inside baseball, but the rules on what you can report and what you can't, and when you can tweet and all that are a little bit different in Sean Payton world when there's 3,000 fans that can hold up their cell phones too, compared to when it's just reporters. So I like it when the fans are there because it gives us license to really say whatever we want.
That's good. Now, let's get right to it. Just from what you've seen in camp, what you've seen since the two have been paired with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, what has stood out to you? Does Russell Wilson, does he look like a different player under the tutelage of Sean Payton?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, it's a different player. Is it just back to sort of what he was before, all of that? But yeah, you definitely see some points of emphasis that they've been working on. And to me, you're a Broncos fan, they're probably good signs. I don't know if he's going right back to being an all-pro or anything like that, but they've made a clear effort to get him to play in rhythm. He seems to have bought into that, where, this is the thing with a mobile quarterback in almost any circumstance, even if you're a 9-time Pro Bowler, is the ability to make plays off schedule and extend the play is great, but you want that to be the extra thing. You don't want that to be the whole thing. And so they've really worked with him on that. And I thought it looked better in the second preseason game even than it did in the first. And then the other part of it is related to that. They've got him moving up in the pocket rather than sort of bailing out the back. And so all of that combined, and then, with Sean Payton's ability just in terms of scheming offense and getting guys open and all of that, it makes me think, I think there's a bounce back in store. It's just, is it a grade 1 bounce back? Is it a grade 3 bounce back? We'll have to wait and see on that.
Overall, too, when you kind of look at what this team went up against with the injury situation a year ago and where they kind of stand right now, that's a big part of where the struggles were outside of the well-documented Russell Wilson woes. I know from a health, there's been at least one significant injury, but just the overall health of this team compared to a year ago, does it feel better? Does it at least look like that aspect, at least as of now, is looking better than it did a year ago?
Yeah, and I think that's certainly that's part of what went wrong for them last year. At one point, all 5 of their starters on the offensive line missed multiple games at different times. At one point, there were a couple different stints this season where only one of their preferred 5 were actually, starting and playing in games. And so they can stay healthier in that sense. They'll obviously be better off. They've had a couple of bad ones already, Tim Patrick being the biggest.
Right.
Almost exactly a year after he tore his ACL, he's back out there and, playing in the slot just like they thought he was going to last year and like they were banking on him doing this year, and he tore his Achilles. That was the beginning of camp. So they've had a couple guys go down, but for the most part, yesterday was sort of a buoying day for them. They had some guys out with more minor stuff, and Justin Simmons was back yesterday. Mike McGlinchey was back yesterday, and so they've got some. They're trending in a good direction, I think, on the injury front, which is an interesting thing to have to say in late August, 3 weeks before games even start. But that's where they're at this point.
Kind of going back to Russell Wilson and his ability to take a bigger step this year, how much of Courtland Sutton and what he means to this offense will have a hand in that, in your opinion?
Yeah, a big hand, I think. And what's interesting, Nick, is like a lot of the NFL. The talent is so similar across the league, right? Like there's just so much parity that at some level you have to maximize what you have, and it just, for whatever reason last year, whether it was Russell Wilson not playing well or whether it was a young offensive staff that didn't, quite have the handle they thought they had, or a combination or whatever, it never quite felt that they were getting the most out of the guys they had, deploying the guys they had in exactly the right ways. And, Sean Payton is a lot of things, and he, he's won 152 games in the NFL, and he's won a Super Bowl, and he's also not won a Super Bowl since 2009, and he had 3, straight 7-9 seasons. Like whatever side of the coin you want to look at, one thing that he's always been good at is understanding, hey, this guy is this. He runs these 3 routes really well, or these 5 routes really well. This is how I'm going to use him, and then sticks with that. And I just think, like, whether that means they end up winning, 7 games this year or 10 games and they get a wild card spot or wherever it actually lands, like, I just think that those guys like Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, a guy like Greg Dulcich, I just think that their usage will be more efficient this year, and that should translate into offensive improvement.
Parker Gabriel joining us from the Denver Post here on 1620 The Zone. I do want to get to the defense, but again, going with the offensive element of this and having Javonte Williams back, I know he had limited action in the preseason game against San Francisco, but ultimately, how has he looked in camp? What have been the big takeaways just since he's returned from having that tough injury that he faced a year ago?
Yeah, Sean Payton, we asked him about about Javonte Williams after he played for the first time Saturday in San Francisco, and Sean Payton joked, well, I guess he doesn't like 80-yard screen passes because he dropped one that was beautifully set up on the first play of the game. But the reality is, I mean, it's been pretty remarkable to watch. You know, you might say, 10 months, he tore his ACL, that's not all that uncommon, but he did the LCL too. He had other damage in there. It was sort of the J.K. Dobbins injury where Dobbins didn't play for 13 months and then played a few weeks and went back on IR for 4 more weeks. And so it's been pretty remarkable to watch him come back. Like the biggest surprise of OTAs back in May was getting there and seeing Javonte out there. And you're like, wait a second, who's wearing 33? It's like, oh no, that's Javonte Williams. There he is. Okay. So, and he's just really, I'm sure there are days when he doesn't feel particularly good, but it's been really remarkable how steady his progress has been. He hasn't had a big setback so far. He hasn't, he's just down this week. There's been nothing like that. He's just sort of been on the path toward full go. And then he got, several touches on Saturday against San Francisco, and I bet he'll get some full contact work the next 2 days against the Rams, and then geared up for September 10th against Las Vegas. So it's been pretty amazing, and I don't know exactly. I don't think there's any guarantee that he's just going to get 18 touches, week after week and feel great every week. But he's going to be involved, and that's really saying something, I think, for what you would have thought back in February or March.
What's the feel around the defense right now? I know it's just over the past couple of years, it's taken on a different look. No Bradley Chubb, but I mean, what they've, obviously no Von Miller, but what they've tried to do to kind of maintain a little bit of that identity that had made that defense so solid for so many years. Where do you kind of feel that group is right now?
Yeah, I think they've had a really smooth off season, especially given the fact that they changed coordinators. Jiro Evero was here last year. He sort of took the mantle from Vic Fangio, and Vance Joseph, even though, Vance is a longtime coordinator and has coached a lot of football, sort of just, took the baton from Evero and sort of kept the train rolling. He, it's all 3-4. Excuse me. Vance plays a lot of under, like it's pretty similar to what they've done in the past. Vance probably the most aggressive of those 3 guys in terms of, pressure rate and all of that. But he took a lot of what he knew and changed the language to what the, Denver players have used the last couple of years to make it a really smooth transition. And it has been, I think, it's interesting. I think spot on that you mentioned Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, because the way I see it is if this group rushes the passer at a league average or better rate, they're going to be really good. I mean, they're extremely talented in the secondary. They've got quality linebacker play. They're not particularly deep on the defensive line, but if they get a little, you got to stay healthy up front. I guess that's the biggest question mark. Yeah. But Zach Allen and DJ Jones are a nice place to start there, and then they're going to need some young guys to step up. But the real key is if a group that includes Randy Gregory, obviously former Husker, former Ohio State guy, Jonathan Cooper, Frank Clark, and Nick Benito, if those guys are on the field playing and productive, it's going to be a really good defense. And if they're not, it's going to be a little bit like last year where you got a lot of talent and you can sort of hang in there, but if you can't disrupt an opposing quarterback at some point, it's going to cost you big time.
And I'll end on this one, and I'm glad you brought up Randy Gregory. And I know, we've seen his career. We know that there's just his length, his body. It provides so much for any team that's looking for an edge rusher. I know he just never really he was never really able to get going last year. And again, part of that is injury. When you do look at where he is right now and, opposite of Frank Clark, how do you feel like that has benefited Randy Gregory from what you've seen so far this year?
Yeah, I think, the thing about it is if he can, well, 2 things. He's looked really good in this preseason. I mean, he played 22 snaps against San Francisco. I talked to him after the game, walked out with him actually, and he feels good. He feels healthy. He's had injuries to both his knees over the course of his career, and because he missed the 2 seasons, due to suspension and all of that, like he's 30 and not getting younger, and so he's really spent a healthy offseason, his first fully healthy offseason in a while, working on just the strength in his legs and trying to make sure, he's always been naturally explosive, like you said, but trying to make sure that he can hold up as well as possible over an 18-week season. And so I think he feels good. I think he feels confident. And then, he's played pretty well against the run so far in camp and in the preseason games. And so he's sort of, I think, embracing the idea of being the elder statesman and being the guy in that room along with Frank Clark that, has to do a little bit of everything. And then I think he's also, quietly confident that he may not have to play 50 snaps a game if Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito and then Baron Browning at some point in the season, as he comes back from a knee injury, can help take a little bit of the pressure off, and that they can be a good, deep group rather than, relying all on Randy Gregory and Frank Clark.
Also, I know at a time that you remember so well around here, we're almost a week exactly away from kicking off the Nebraska football season. I mean, come on, let's be honest. How much do you miss it? How much do you miss going to practices afterwards and getting all of the sound bites and getting geared up for what is always an adventurous, entertaining ride of Nebraska football?
Yeah, I find myself, I still keep track a little bit, not obviously like I did when it was my job, but I was watching, just the other day actually, I was watching their series, The Look, and their, the YouTube that they're doing, the Hard Knocks style type thing. And it was amazing because there's still some guys like, there's, Quentin Newsom, like I covered his recruitment, and then I covered multiple years of him. Obviously I watched Isaac Gifford play at Southeast and covered Luke too. And so there's still like probably, I don't know, this is about the last year. There's a year or maybe two where there's some guy, Raquan Buckley, I covered his recruitment at least in a year when he was on campus. So there's plenty of guys still around. But man, things change fast in college football now. So the number, even though it's only been, two seasons or a year and a half on the calendar or whatever it's been, that's a lot of turnover in the life of a college football program. So still plenty of familiar faces, and who knows, maybe we'll even see some at Folsom Field here in a few weeks.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Parker, appreciate you coming on, man. Keep up the great work. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Great talking.
It's Parker Gabriel, the Denver Post, formerly with the Lincoln Journal-Star. Doing some great stuff out there. Denver Broncos going to be interesting. And Jimmy, I pose this question because it's the huge storyline for the Denver Broncos, and it's no mystery either, and that is the Sean Payton effect on Russell Wilson. And I was listening the other day on a debate of whether Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer already. Like if he decided to hang it up now, would he be a Hall of Famer? And I was listening to Marcus Spears talk about this and not necessarily even getting into is he or isn't he, because I still think there's work to do for Russell Wilson to be a Hall of Famer. You've got the Super Bowl win, but I mean, think about this. This was interesting.
But they didn't win completely because of him.
That was the defense.
That defense.
Yeah.
I'm not pooping on the guy.
Right.
That would be gross. But
Ew.
yeah, I know. Yeah. But I'm with you. Like he's probably still got a little more work to do in that department. He'll lead the Broncos to the promised land or have great success there with Sean Payton. And yeah, that might do it. But come on, you talk about the Seahawks championship. It's the Legion of Boom.
What if I told you this and just kind of shaping your opinion on Russell Wilson as a Hall of Famer compared to just a good player and a guy that you feel like you can win with? Because there's a big difference there, obviously.
Very good player.
What if I told you this, though? I found to be astonishing, and it was brought up during this conversation, that Russell Wilson has never once gotten an MVP vote. Not once in his entire career has he received an MVP vote.
I think that's kind of interesting.
That shocked me.
I mean, he had some
when I heard
great
that.
years in Seattle.
Yeah. I mean, there were some individual seasons where he was putting up some very good numbers. But to that point, when you think of Hall of Famers, there's a lot of different ways that people are going to judge quarterbacks that are Hall of Fame worthy. I think first and foremost, well, you have to start with this, and that is the length of career. But then that usually has to accompany at least one, in my opinion, I think it has to accompany a Super Bowl title. Now, there are exceptions to that, obviously, Dan Marino and other quarterbacks that have put up great numbers. They've done it for a very long time. They've been the face of the franchise, and for whatever reason, they were unable to capture that. But then there are also guys that maybe don't put up the individual numbers, but are multiple Super Bowl winners. In fact, I just received a text from our good friend Dave Tollison,
All right.
two-time Super Bowl champion himself, who will always advocate that Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. Well,
I'm not disagreeing with him there.
When you look at 2 Super Bowl titles and you look at in those games,
Big playoff performer.
Yep, absolutely. When Eli had to make plays, there's a category there that I think does hold a lot of value. And I think there are a lot of people that feel Russell Wilson is on the path to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But I don't think people would say he could retire today and would find his way in the Hall of Fame. Obviously not first ballot, but would find his way into the Hall of Fame.
But this Denver era for him could be what gets him there.
Exactly. It could, or as Marcus Spears brought up, and I think it's a good question, what if he doesn't recover? What if this doesn't work with Sean Payton? Because I think there's a lot of reason to believe it will. I think when you look at what Sean Payton, his connection with the offense and with a quarterback that we saw in New Orleans, in what he meant to Drew Brees.
Could be a resurgence.
Absolutely. There's a lot there that I think can give you confidence that you'll see a much better version of Russell Wilson. But what if this doesn't rebound?
Well,
How badly that impacts Russell Wilson's trajectory of what he could be remembered for. And
well, that's what it'll be.
Exactly.
You know what it'll be remembered for.
Yeah.
Broncos country, let's ride. That's not good.
Well, and he'll be, then I think that's where the narrative completely shifts to Russell Wilson of, well, he was the beneficiary of a tremendous defense.
They're so good.
And they were good.
Yes.
But even as they were kind of breaking up season by season, you still saw some good years out of Russell Wilson, performance-wise. But last year was so bad. And
that's
then
the thing, the whole team was bad. It just never worked. From the beginning, it just seemed off.
Yes. I think that is, and Aaron Rodgers would disagree with this, that was a coach in Nathaniel Hackett who was brought in initially so that the Broncos could lure Aaron Rodgers away from the Packers and he could be the Broncos starting quarterback. Well, that didn't work. So it's like, all right, well, you don't get Aaron Rodgers, but Nathaniel Hackett, guess who you do get? We're going to get you Russell Wilson. We're going to get the next best thing that we can possibly pull off here, and that's Russell Wilson. And it was a dumpster fire. It was an absolute dumpster fire. And there was a lot around that I would say, yeah, part of it's on Nathaniel Hackett. Part of it's on Russell Wilson. As we were just talking to Parker there, they were just completely ravaged with injuries. So there was a lot of blame to go around. But I thought when Russell Wilson and the Broncos made that trade, I thought, wow, that's, first of all, kind of surprising, but this could be really big.
And still could.
And it could. But last year took his stock to an all-time low. And it goes beyond football, too, because he's kind of become a little bit of a punchline when it comes to, we were talking about tries too hard guy. He's someone that is always out to try to impress you when it comes, like when they did the international flight and they're playing in London and he's doing a workout on the plane and making sure people knew about that. It's like, what do you stand to gain?
Connor and Josh's promo that we ran earlier, that sums it up great.
And
he's watch that.
He's tries too hard guy.
But if you're winning, it's endearing.
It is. And it's like, man, this guy just has a lot to say. He's so positive.
Like if Kirk Cousins was 3-14, that Cole stuff isn't as cute and funny anymore.
I think
But
Dork.
when he's winning, you're rooting for him.
You
You're
can,
like,
yeah, you can.
I relate to him.
You can root for Dork when you're winning.
I have Cole's cash burning in my wallet. Go, Kirk.
When you're losing, Dork is just being a dork.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's not very endearing.
That's what
but
it
yeah,
is.
I agree. But yeah, Russell Wilson, like you always seem like, and I'm not trying to say like he's a horrible person. I question.
Might be a great person.
I question his authenticity. I do, because a lot of that seems to be overcompensating for something. And everything has to be a production with Russell Wilson. And when you don't have the results to back it up, it does kind of paint you in a much different light. And all of this, I think, is part of the conversation when it comes to what Russell Wilson will truly be remembered for, because he's getting further and further and further and further and further away from those days of when they had something really special going in Seattle. Now it's, okay, Russell Wilson trying to forge his own path without the aiding or helping of this generational type dominant defense like the Legion of Boom. I think Denver still feels like what they have up front. And I would agree with Parker Gabriel from what I know of the defense. They've got some corners. Josie Jewell is a very good linebacker. I mean, they've got some guys up there. It's a different type of defense. But again, if you're Russell Wilson, you're able to sort of resurrect your career here in year 2 with the Broncos, then I think you start to kind of put him back into that top 10 conversation of quarterbacks. If he doesn't get it going, though, this is why I bring up sort of his personality. This is a guy who pays attention to everything everyone is saying about him. He just can't help it. It is. Because if you start to find yourself struggling again, it gets even more amplified. It's like, okay, clearly it's not Sean Payton here. This seems like it's a Russell, or it's not the coaching thing. This is more of a Russell Wilson thing. Is he someone who hasn't dealt with that much on-field adversity? Is he one that starts to really spiral to basically irrelevancy? That's what I wonder about. I think he is one of the most...
Sean won't have patience if he's not getting the job done.
No, he won't.
But it could also be a blessing for him if it starts to click.
That's why I think Russell Wilson and Sean Payton this year, like I'm not expecting them to win the division. I don't expect any of those things.
That means who wouldn't win the division.
Well, yeah. Anyway. But I do find them to be one of the most interesting follows this year because of what's at stake for both of them. I don't think Sean Payton is somebody that is – I don't think anybody questions Sean Payton's ability to coach and be one of the best coaches in this game.
He didn't need to get back in either.
No, he did not.
This job.
He did not.
Really hoping to
take
the Cowboys.
I don't think there's that much on the line for Sean Payton as much as there is for Russell Wilson. Because I think if Sean Payton ultimately fails with Russell Wilson, people are going to point to Russell Wilson being the problem and not Sean Payton.
But then it'll be on him the next guy needs to be the guy.
Sure it will. But for Russell Wilson, this season is monumental for him on what type of path he leaves and what type of legacy he leaves. That one season that was just an absolute train wreck has now set up, I think, of Russell Wilson in a must perform to sort of salvage your career to be the kind of guy that people thought. And yes, you would think before he was going into Denver, all roads were leading to the Hall of Fame. This year would have a major impact one way or the other on that.
You never know. It could be a great redemption story.
It could. Or it could be more of the same. And then what are we saying about Russell Wilson?
Well, then you know.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to switch it over to talking high school football. Big matchup between Omaha Westside, defending state champions, coming out of the gate against rival Creighton Prep. Prep already with one game in the books. We will talk to the head Westside coach, Paul Lamanji, right after this.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone. And 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
The takeaway here is everything they did is worked.
And it's worked to the point that the attendance is up 8%.
That is bonkers. So, I mean, it's showing itself in every facet of baseball.
It's
working on the field. It's working in attendance. I'm guessing, I'm not a TV ratings guy, but I'm guessing the postseason is going to have an uptick in viewership.
Unsportsmanlike conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Excessive heat warning continues Wednesday. Expect hot, humid, and breezy conditions as winds turn more out of the southwest. Expect mostly to partly sunny skies with afternoon highs around 100. Several hours with feels-like temperatures between 105 and 115 degrees. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Welcome to the Rib Shack, 108th and Q.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Backland Plumbing Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a bit of a slowdown eastbound along I-80 near 84th Street. Then on L, be prepared for a significant delay from 84th all the way to 108th. And along Center, be prepared for some significant delays from 192nd to 160th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Lus Hills Harley-Davidson.
It doesn't matter if you live in Iowa, Nebraska, 10 miles away, or 200. There's only one place to go for all your Harley-Davidson parts and service. General merchandise, new and used motorcycles. Lus Hills Harley-Davidson. Rise up and ride on.
The cigar enthusiasts at Hearth Cigars and Pipes are a pretty diverse bunch of humans. Some enjoy an adult beverage or two, others pass the time with a competitive yet friendly game of dominoes. Still others enjoy shooting some pool downstairs, while more than a few are just satisfied with each other's company. The common thread with all of them is the awesomeness that is their favorite cigar from the humidor. Hearth Cigars and Pipes, just off the 48th Street exit from I-680 at the corner of Mormon Bridge Road and McKinley, and at hearthcigars.com.
Shop Sid Dillon Chevrolet, Nebraska's #1 volume Chevy dealer. Visit any of our 4 locations for your new Chevy or pre-owned vehicle, or at siddillonchevy.com. Chevy, find new roads.
You are what drives us, Sid Dillon.
Attention Husker Nation! Steve Sipple, senior writer for Husker Online, speaks this Thursday at Holy Ghost Church on 52nd and Q. The program starts at 7 and it's only $10 for adults and $5 for children. Sponsored by Ray Martin Company and Mama's Pizza.
Break out your bell bottoms and platform shoes when the Omaha Storm Chasers throw it back on 70s night, August 24th at Warner Park. Enjoy 70s themed food, drinks, music, and even throwback 70s inspired Omaha Royals jerseys. You'll think you're at the disco. Don't miss your chance to bring back the grooviest decade. Get your tickets at omahastormchasers.com.
Omaha Storm Chasers family. Everyone get on your feet, stir up the storm with family.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
PACE, Police Athletics for Community Engagement Organization, is dedicated to preventing at-risk and disadvantaged inner-city children from becoming involved in street gangs, crime, drug use, and victimization. PACE provides an opportunity to develop discipline, self-esteem, and positive moral values through wholesome competition and free participation in soccer, baseball, CrossFit, and flag football. To help PACE and local families make sure kids have access to safe and fun spring and summer activities, please go to paceomaha.org to support the PACE mission. Thank you.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
A full slate of high school football kicks off starting tomorrow night, week 1. We had a handful of games last Friday. One of those teams that was in action was the Creighton Prep Junior Jays. Falling to Bellevue West, they will now take on the defending state champion West Side Warriors that get things started on Friday night. We are happy to be joined here on the 42-degree hotline with the head coach of the defending state champs, West Side Warriors head coach Paul Lamanji. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning. How are we doing today?
Doing fantastic. Now, you guys already got your work in for the morning, right?
We did. Yeah, we were out practicing pretty early this morning and just had a little weight room time, and yeah, so we've had a full day already.
And I know a lot of the adjustment to what everybody's kind of adjusting to here in the area is with the heat, and I know you guys take that serious, and there are certain times that you got to either go in the morning or you got to cut things short. As everybody, for the most part, handled that adjustment pretty well, and as you kind of deal with something else that you probably would rather not deal with going into that first week of action?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I love the support of our school for kind of, helping us get through this difficult week, just with some timing issues and in facilities. But the one good thing, our guys are used to kind of getting up early. We did it all summer. We work out pretty early, and then we started off fall camp like that. So coming back and returning to early morning workouts it hasn't been too big of an adjustment. We've gotten through it, and I think we've been productive at it. But it does cause a little bit of a chaotic structure during the school day. But the guys are working hard through it, and we're excited about playing on Friday.
Well, and with that, how has camp gone so far, getting ready for that season opener on Friday, especially now with that bullseye now on right squarely on Westside's chest here?
Yeah, fall camp, our whole off season has been fantastic. I think our guys have kind of reinvented themselves a little bit, worked extremely hard, and they're excited about the challenge of this 2023 season. And we're just taking the perception of we're going to continue to hunt and elevate, and that's been kind of our mantra since January. So I love where we're at right now. We got another day of work to get ready, and then we're really looking forward to Friday night.
So many dudes on this team. I mean, you can look on the offensive side, you can look at the defensive side, the linebacking core. I want to start with Anthony Rizak and just what you want to see out of him in the next step here after what was a very consistent, very impressive season a year ago along that state title run. What's the next step for Anthony, in your opinion?
To continue to elevate, just to keep getting better. He's such a fantastic person to begin with. He's the leader of our offense. He's very intelligent with what we want to get accomplished. He knows it well. He's extremely tough. So we just want him to continue to improve his game. And he's a really good passer. We want that better. He's a really good runner. We want that better. We want him to do the little things better. So just like everybody else, we love what Anthony brings to the table, and we're really excited what he's going to do this coming fall, because he's a special dude.
With 9 returning starters defensively, I know that there are a lot of good linebacking squads throughout the state, but when you look at the combination of guys like Christian Jones, Bo Ryan, Nick Ingram, even throwing Trevor Spady and other guys that will contribute, I mean, are you hard pressed to find a better overall linebacking core in the state right now?
I don't know about that. I mean, because I don't know exactly what's out there other than us. But I like our crew. They're a tough crew. They run to the ball extremely fast. They're physical, and they love to compete. So that's all special characteristics that makes for a very good linebacker. And we love having them out there as a second level, so we're happy with them.
You get a healthy Caleb Benning this year, Teddy Rizak as well there in the safety position. When you think of that combination, what those guys bring to the defense, how do you best describe it?
Yeah, they're intelligent. I mean, Caleb and Teddy Rizak as our safeties bring an element that they're like coaches back there. They're great communicators. They put us our coverages in lock positions. They get everybody set, and they're veteran players, and they love to play defense, and they sprint the ball and they attack the ball, and they're really great to have back there as kind of doing some things, whether they're playing whether we play two high or one high, roll somebody down. They're just great options to have back there, and they're fun to watch.
And, when you kind of look at also another guy that people know where he is on the field, especially opposing offenses in the passing game, and Preston Okafor, when you kind of look at his game, and almost kind of a similar question that I asked you about Anthony Rizak, what do you need to see out of Preston Okafor to kind of take that next step?
Well, Preston had some question marks going into fall camp, going into a senior year. I mean, he has the attributes. He's a big, tall, strong kid. Obviously, has great speed, but he was kind of an unknown just because he didn't play much as a junior. But he has had an outstanding camp. His physicality is extremely impressive. His coverage skills have gotten better each day, and he's a long kid. And he's had a great fall camp. So he's going to be ready to go and excited to make his mark come Friday too. So he's been a nice little addition to our defense that we were kind of unsure about, and so that's a good thing.
Talking to Omaha Westside head football coach Paul Lamanji here as they will open up and defend that state title against Creighton Prep, a rivalry game on Friday. If you go back to the lasting images of that 2022 state championship season, we saw Tristan Alvano drill a game winner, and we know Tristan Alvano now at Nebraska. A big part of a team is if you can have a reliable leg like that. So who is best suited to replace Tristan Alvano as it stands?
Will Bowerly. Will actually was the kicker here as a freshman, 3 years ago. He's an experienced kid. He went through a few injuries, but he will be handling our punting and our kicking duties, and we're excited about him. He has a good, strong leg. He's an athletic type kid. He's a football player, and he's had a really good camp as well. So, he hasn't really missed much in camp in terms of field goals, and he's been blasting the ball on punt very well. So, he's going to be a good one to have back there, and we pay a lot of attention to our special teams, and it's good having him there.
Another key guy that you guys will replace when you think about this offense and its production, and more, I guess, maybe more of the home run hitting type play, and Jalen Lloyd with that amazing speed. Do you have a couple of guys that you look at now that you think, okay, maybe they provide that same type of big play element? Because it seems like you have a lot of options at wide receiver, but do you have that burner that you feel like that can sort of present that type of threat that you saw from Jalen Lloyd?
Keenan Cotton's a pretty good player. He ran, he won some 100 meters this summer. He's got great speed. He played last year as a sophomore, so he's going to be a threat to any defensive base, as well as Ken Rizak and Caleb Benning and Trevor Spady and Christian Jones, and they're all Christian ran a 10.8 in track, so those guys have some speed to them. But we want to give them the ball, and we want to see. We just want to stress defenses, and we want them to, we want those defenses forced to tackle us in space, and they're going to have to tackle us hard because those guys got some good strength to them. So I think it'll be a challenge replacing last year's speed, but I think we got some guys in place that will give it their all to try to score.
Do you feel, and kind of sticking with the skilled positions too, do you feel like Jamez Ross kind of poised for a strong year out of the backfield?
Oh yeah, he lost about 10, 12 pounds. He's had a really good camp. He's extremely quick. He's fast. He's shown a lot of explosive bursts. He could take it the distance, and he's going to be someone we're looking to put the ball in his hands. He's really good out of the backfield as well. So he's having a good camp.
Who are some of the players, and we know you guys have done such a good job of developing these guys at such a young stage of their high school football lives, maybe some of the players that are younger, underclassmen that could really contribute for this team that we don't know about yet? Is there a guy or two that you've really liked their fall camp that you're expecting some big things out of this season?
Yeah, I mean, Owen James is a sophomore lineman that we have that's going to contribute on the offense and defensive line. He's a big, strong kid. His older brother played a few years ago, and we're expecting really good things from him. And then Cam Bell is a returning starter at nose man for us. He'll be a junior. He's a big, strong kid, has good experience, competitive dude. We like him a lot. And, there's a Quentin Warren. He's going to play some outside linebacker for us. He also plays a little bit of quarterback. So we got a good mix of young kids, a good, strong junior class, and then, that experienced senior class where we're going to have a nice mix of guys, hopefully continues to get better as the year goes on and continue to elevate. So it'll be a challenge. We play a competitive schedule, but as long as we get a little better each day, we like where we're going to be, hopefully.
And Coach, lastly, I remember the first time I saw you on a sideline, you were with Kirk Peterson and the Millard West staff, your time at Omaha Burke and now at West. It's amazing when you look around the state of Nebraska and even the metro and the Lincoln area too, but just the entire state, the talent that we continue to see evolve in high school football in this state. And you've kind of seen it evolve as well. Is this as good of overall level of play that we've seen since you've been on the sidelines and coaching in the metro?
Well, I'd say the last 5 years has been very good. There's a lot of great teams out there. There's a lot of great players, that are continuously going on and playing at the next level. Power 5 type guys that I didn't see in '99 when I started. So it's great to see in programs. There's a lot of good programs out there that have great kids and that are becoming very good players. So yeah, there's been some growth in the last 5 years that makes Omaha and Lincoln and even out west to be a great spot for recruiters from all around the country to come and see what the state has to offer. And there is no question that guys are working hard out here. Guys are playing good high school football, and the competition is getting better each and every year. So that's a great thing.
Paul Lamanji joining us here. Coach, really appreciate you jumping on, spending time with us. Best of luck on Friday and throughout the season.
And if I may, today's my daughter Cece's birthday. I know she might be listening. I'd like to wish her happy birthday.
All right, absolutely. Yes, happy birthday,
All
Cece.
right.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's Paul Lamanji, head coach for Omaha West Side. Yeah, I remember seeing Coach Lamanji with Kirk Peterson, Millard West, when they really kind of got that thing going there. Then, of course, the success that he had at Omaha Burke and some great players there as well. And now at West Side, it's going to be a fun team to watch. This is one of those teams, as we see many sort of circled throughout the season. I know you can only get to so many games each week, but right before that Colorado game, you got Bellevue West Side. But hey, Prep showed up. Even a team that lost over 30 seniors a year ago, Prep showed up against Bellevue West in that defeat. They're always going to be a handful, and especially that rivalry. They got 4 quarters under their belt already. Should be a lot of fun Friday night as Omaha West Side begins their title defense against their rival Creighton Prep. When we come back, got an update from Jimmy. We'll also talk some more Husker football in the 9 o'clock hour. Brandon Vogel before we get out of here. All that still ahead.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. For the Jays, the Huskers, and even you Jayskers, we are 1620 The Zone.
If the roof on your home or business received hail damage from the recent storm, there's only one call to make for an assessment. John Higgins Weather Guard, the local, trusted, and proven choice. No one has installed more DaVinci roofs, and there's a reason why John Higgins Weather Guard is the nation's leader. Community member, community supporter. Make the right call. John Higgins Weather Guard.
John Higgins Weather Guard, the home of the rooferys. Make the right call.
Happy birthday to us. That's right. We're turning 50 this year, and we're celebrating with you. Introducing my new birthday cake streusel, topped with vanilla cake and crunchy streusel, a swirl of white icing, and showered with rainbow sprinkles. Paired with our classic combo, the one that started it all, and your favorite one-topping pizza. Happy birthday feast. Enjoy one today. Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
Wow, that happened way too fast. One day you drop them off for their first day of kindergarten, and now they have their driver's license. So stop into Gretna Auto Outlet to find the perfect first set of wheels for your new driver. At Gretna Auto Outlet, you'll find a great selection of quality cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs with financing available to nearly every buyer. Take a look at GretnaAuto.com or swing by Gretna Auto Outlet just north of Nebraska Crossing on Highway 6 in Gretna, Omaha's next door neighbor.
The Orpheum Theatre welcomes comedy legend and icon John Cleese to the stage for an evening with the late John Cleese. It's an unforgettable night of laughs and conversation when the Monty Python co-founder takes the stage to share an hilarious and insightful look at his life and work. It's the thrill of a lifetime event. Don't miss John Cleese live November 8th. Get tickets at ticketomaha.com.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Have you ever noticed that when the afternoon light hits your floors, you can see everything, including dust?
So much dust.
And that poor dust gets kicked up into the air, compromising the quality of air you and your family breathe. Swiffer Heavy Duty Sweeper is the fast and easy way to clean your floors with ultra-thick pads that trap and lock dust before it gets in the air. Just a couple minutes a day.
And dust is gone.
Swiffer Heavy Duty Sweeper. Proud partner of the American Lung Association.
Join Sharp and Handley this Thursday from 6 to 10 when they officially kick off 1620 The Zone's Redout Week, presented by Union Bank and Trust. Gary and Nick discuss Nebraska's first game in Minnesota in the 2023 season. It's Sharp and Handley season kickoff, presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. Thursday, 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Your exclusive home for Royals baseball in Omaha.
Right up the middle, base hit, and the Royals are a winner.
1620 The Zone.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
6 Nebraska football players named to the Senior Bowl watch list. That was announced this morning. Offensive lineman Bryce Benhart and Scott, running back Anthony Grant, defensive back Quentin Newsom, linebacker Luke Reimer, and D lineman Ty Robinson each earned a spot on the watch list. The Senior Bowl will be held February 3rd, not too far away, in Mobile, Alabama. Elite draft prospects from around the country are selected to showcase their talent at the Senior Bowl and connect with coaches and decision makers from all 32 NFL teams. The Storm Chasers are up for multiple runs in 5 innings as they crushed St. Paul 14-4 in their series opener last night at Werner Park, and they needed that. That marked the most runs Omaha has scored in a game since May 17th when they had 16 against Blue Browns Mud Hens. The first 2 batters of the game homered for St. Paul, but it was all Omaha after that. A 5-run second inning kept by Bubba Thompson's 2-run homer, but the Chasers up for good. Thompson and Clay Duncan finished with 3 RBIs each, while Nick Lofton scored 3 times for the Chasers. Same two teams at Werder Park, 6:35 tonight. In the NFL, sideline clearing brawl. These players are ready for the season to start. Erupted between the Eagles and Colts at yesterday's joint practice, cutting the session short. The melee was sparked when Eagles center and podcast star Jason Kelsey blindsided Zaire Franklin at the end of a play, dropping the Colts linebacker to the ground. Kelsey appeared to take umbrage with Franklin getting extra physical with running back Kenneth Gainwell on consecutive plays. Kelsey took ownership of his actions afterwards. No surprise they're calling his hit on Franklin a cheap shot. He says, "We try and keep things civil on the field, and I pride myself on being a guy that sustains the emotions and level of play out there, and I let my emotions get the better of me. That certainly doesn't belong out there in the field, and a little ashamed that it got to that level." He is a stand-up dude. Very likable. Kelsey said that he did not meet up with Franklin following practice to address the situation because probably tensions are a little bit too high for that right now. Other NFL news, Seahawks rookie receiver and former Ohio State stud Jackson Smith-Njigba will have surgery to repair a broken bone in his wrist, but still could be ready for the start of the regular season. The very young coach Pete Carroll confirmed yesterday. Seriously, he's younger than you and I. He's like 70-something years old. And
it's all about not how old you are, but how old you feel.
In that case,
and if I
might
feel,
be 75.
If I feel like Pete Carroll does at 75, man, I'm doing something good.
I haven't felt like Pete Carroll does at 75 since kindergarten. Seriously, I think
he's got energy.
I think Ronald Reagan was still the president the last time I felt like that.
He's got energy for days. Yes,
Yeah.
he does.
The Seahawks open the season September 10th against the Los Angeles Rams in Seattle. Asked if Smith-Njigba could be back by then. Carroll said, "We're staying optimistic." Of course, he's always optimistic. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Other stuff with one preseason game to go. Bucs coach Todd Bowles names Baker Mayfield the starting quarterback for the season, filling the very large shoes of Tom Brady. Mayfield, who was the number one pick way back in 2018, who's had stints with the Browns, Rams, and Panthers, beat out 2021 second-round draft pick Kyle Trask. There you go.
Yay.
Time to bake. That's what they say.
Yay.
Also in the NFC South, New Orleans Saints coach Dennis Allen does not expect tight end Jimmy Graham to miss a significant amount of practice time after the team said Graham had a medical episode on Friday night. Graham did not play in Sunday's preseason game against the Chargers and was not at practice yesterday afternoon, but Allen said it's possible he could return as early as Wednesday. In case you don't know, Graham was taken into custody by police in Newport Beach on Friday night on suspicion of being under the influence of narcotics and obstructing a police officer, according to the arrest report. The report said officers responded to a call that a suspicious male was on someone's property at a location several miles away from where the team was staying while it held joint practices with the Los Angeles Chargers. Bail was set at $1,000, but Graham was released on his own reconnaissance around 2:15 a.m. The Saints said they believe a medical episode led to Graham's disorientation and that he potentially had a seizure. I'm still wanting to know more on that. That's scary.
Yeah, I would hope they are trying
okay?
to establish the root of that problem.
No, we'll be back at practice on Wednesday. Oh, just a seizure. No big deal. It's a big deal.
This is where I think, and maybe I'm naive to this, where I think a lot of emphasis has been put more into the player's safety element of the game of football, but especially the NFL. I mean, it started with concussions and CTE, and I kind of chuckle when I say transparency because there wasn't a lot of that up until maybe the last 10 years. I think that this is something. It's not always consistent across the board, but you pay close attention to, especially something as significant as that, where you have a seizure and something that almost leads to somebody wandering into traffic where you could obviously hurt yourself even more, that you would try everything to get to the root cause of that. And based on tests and everything that I would expect any organization to do, and if he's back at practice, I would hope that everything came back clear. It was maybe one of those fluke things. I don't know.
Like, yeah, great, but is he all right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's a legitimate concern, but I guess this is where I would say I feel confident that would be something the medical staff for the New Orleans Saints would vet exhaustively.
I would think.
I would hope so. I would definitely hope so.
You wouldn't think they'd do diddly poo.
Diddly poo?
Little Saints humor.
I saw this interesting little number thrown out by Texas athletic director Chris Del Conte, who said in that 2019 Texas LSU game that they actually had 116,000 fans in the stadium. That stadium holds, 85 now?
Wait. At Texas, they had 116,000?
Yeah.
It holds about 102, but 116,000.
Is it up to 102 now?
Yeah.
I thought it was just like 85.
I remember when it was 85.
Okay. But on that number,
we had 11 billion.
I guess they had I mean, I'm sure there was an overflow traffic, probably standing room
It's
only.
a hell of a lot of
thing.
overflow.
That is a lot of overflow. But apparently 110,000 beers were sold too.
I don't know about
There's
you.
some stats
If
for
I'm
you
going
right
to
there.
a ball game, I'm not having one beer.
Well, unless
it's Friday.
If you look at that number, 116,000 fans to 110,000 beers. Not everybody
better. Come on.
Not everybody had a beer there.
You should be double fisting. Seriously, you don't have to stand in line as much.
I guess so. We are going to talk to Brandon Vogel in the 9 o'clock hour. When we return, CBS Sports, we gave you Omaha World Herald's game-by-game prediction. CBS Sports giving you their Big Ten predictions and where they have Nebraska in the Big Ten West standings, but also with the teams that the CBS Sports crew, they list as overrated, underrated, and even the bold predictions. Does Nebraska find themselves in any of these categories? We will get to that also. Rodgers and his approval for playing in this preseason game. We'll get to that as we get in our final hour. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Backland Plumbing Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a bit of a slowdown eastbound along I-80 near 84th Street. Then on L, be prepared for a significant delay from 84th all the way to 108th. And along Center, be prepared for some significant delays from 192nd to 160th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Reason number 87 to get your Fernando's fix during football season.
World Series? Never heard of her.
For tailgates, watch parties, or just an ordinary Saturday, get your Fernando's fix. FernandosOmaha.com.
The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All information presented here is not meant as a substitute for or alternative to information from healthcare practitioners paid for by Labyrinth Labs.
Guys, throw away the magazines, toss out the books, turn off the so-called science programs. They all say you hit your potential in your 20s. Well, I say bull. I say take Maxiderm and prove them wrong. Yeah, sure, testosterone starts to drop off as you age. But with Maxiderm, you can recharge your testosterone, take back your power, and find unlimited potential whatever your age. Maxiderm's testosterone booster helps restore your stamina, recharge your energy, and reignite your fire. In the gym? Yeah. At the office? Absolutely. In the bedroom? You better believe it. Call now for a free supply of Maxiderm. That's right. Call today and get a free supply of Maxiderm Power Up Testosterone Booster with your order. Just call 1-800-430-9587. Call 1-800-430-9587 today for this free offer. 1-800-430-9587.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis. It will be Labor Day before you know it. And if you do not have any plans, get signed up right now at miraclehillgolf.com for their Labor Day 4-person scramble. Only $320 for you and 3 others. As always, the golf, the cart, tee gift, prizes, you'll get fed. Plus, you'll have an awesome time. Sign up today at the website for their Labor Day 4-person scramble, miraclehillgolf.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Join Sharp and Handley this Thursday from 6 to 10 when they officially kick off 1620 The Zone's Redout Week, presented by Union Bank and Trust. Gary and Nick discuss Nebraska's first game in Minnesota in the 2023 season. It's Sharp and Handley season kickoff, presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. Thursday, 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone.
Let it fly. Your elevated sports bar experience. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Let's let it ride for a bit. Your Big Ten afternoon football game coming soon.
They better not get rid of this theme.
No.
It's timeless.
No. It just puts a smile on your face.
Me
It should.
too. It's like that thing that we just played for that pill and that enhancement. This is the audio version of that pill.
Oh, it's one of the iconic
There's your male enhancement.
songs right there. That'll get you a Herbie
Hey, it's working again.
on a scorching Wednesday. Final hour, morning Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone. Jimmy, Nick with you.
It's a swamp ass Wednesday on the Zone.
Yeah.
It's Wacky Wingy Wednesday at the Handley House tonight.
It is. I'm bacheloring it up tonight, baby. From all signs, they've made it into the state of Iowa. Well, I guess that wouldn't take much because Council Bluffs is
like
just over there.
Yeah.
But I think they're getting. I think they've made their first stop in Des Moines.
You could be in Iowa before Brandon's on the show.
That's true. That is true. So I think they're good. That's fantastic. Big road trip. Going to Michigan, Traverse City, Michigan this week.
Release the fury, Mitch.
I get to be an officiant. I had to get ordained online. How about that?
Will you be like the one in Beetlejuice? Always picture.
Well, I mean,
I don't know what that was.
Hopefully, I'm more attractive than that.
Yeah, his best days were behind him.
Do you Beetle? Oh, nobody says the beat word. Yeah, underrated movie, really.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe people do.
Kind of an all-star cast when you look at
really
it. Some of
is.
them were before they were really famous.
Absolutely.
Gina Davis was about to explode.
You got
And Alec Baldwin before he was shooting people, and on Jack Donaghy, and then Winona Ryder before she was shoplifting.
Moira Rose.
Michael Keaton before he was Batman. Yes.
What's her? Oh gosh, Kevin's mom in Home Alone.
Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara. Thank you. Yeah.
SCTV legend.
She's awesome. Yeah. Well, that show is blew up.
I think
too.
Mr. Rooney was in it.
He was Ed Rooney. Yep. There was a lot of good stuff there. It was very, very good. College football. We kick things off tomorrow with the special show.
What you did there?
And we do. We're going to be doing so with talking to some former Huskers, including Chad Kelsey and Jay Moore. Stuart Mandel will be on the show tomorrow too. So we've got.
He's not a former Husker.
He's not, but he'll talk Huskers.
Yeah,
we'll talk Big Ten and Huskers. A lot of that. Gonna be some good stuff tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Gary will be back with us too. And then
he is a former Husker.
Alum, yes. I mean, yes.
We didn't specify.
Yeah,
yeah.
Just as long as you
former Husker
attended University of Nebraska Lincoln. There. Sure. It's going to be a fun week of conversations of what to expect because it's the great unknown. I mean, there's just been a lot of positive things coming away from camp. One of the things that Matt Rule spoke about on Saturday and Marcus Satterfield sort of reiterated as well, that you always hope, especially as you get to this part of camp, or I guess we're not in camp anymore. We're in sort of the gray period, the in-between, the purgatory, if you will, for another 2 days before we officially get into game prep, that this Nebraska football team has been relatively healthy. Now, you knock on wood that stays and remains the case, but Teddy Prohaska back at practice, expecting Marcus Washington to be able to play in the game against Minnesota. And then the only other one that was brought up on Saturday, and it seemed to be more precautionary than anything, was Ramir Johnson. Kind of had a little bit of a tight hamstring, so they held him back on Saturday. But all signs point to a relatively healthy team, a team that is just getting the basics down, getting the attention to detail, and trying to clean up some stuff. Marcus Satterfield yesterday talked about some of the things that ailed the offense in the previous week's scrimmage, and you heard Matt Rule talk about that after that kind of the first bigger scrimmage, and where the defense had really won the day. There were procedural things that were taking place with the offense. Marcus Satterfield said his expectation going into this past weekend's scrimmage was more than anything to clean that stuff up, to be a little bit more of a smooth operation and be able to handle tempo. And he made it very clear that didn't necessarily mean they were getting into no huddles, but it was being able to transition out of the huddle, not having the procedural issues, just doing a lot of the little things more clean. And it sounded like that was the case. I was watching a look in. Just installed an interesting scene involving the defense. And it gave you sort of a look of how they are. Again, we talk about accountability, how they are holding their players to certain standards when it comes to the little things. We talk about making mistakes, mental mistakes, and trying to work through what sometimes feels like the monotony of fall camp, where you feel like you're probably doing the same thing every day. You're ready for the opponent, and that's when it becomes even more tough and challenging mentally. So you had the first team defense, and they come out for a series. Then they come off the field. They run all the way back to the Hawks Championship Center. They're basically taken off the field as sort of a punishment. They get together. They go over the things that didn't give them another series, and they're expected to clean it up. Now, and I was trying to catch the first part of why they ran off the field. And I thought it was because there was maybe some loafing with the defensive linemen. So then they come back a second time. And the second time they go back against the number one offense. And after Jeff Sims throws the ball, there's a little bit of contact, which most likely would have gotten a flag. Now, they didn't knock him down on the ground because he's got the green jersey on, but there was contact. And so the starting defense, yet again, is ran off the field. They go to the Hawks Championship Center, and then all of a sudden they're getting a conversation from Corey Campbell. And Corey Campbell talking to him about, cleaning up those little things, talking about contact on the quarterback and, what that could mean in a game. And then you've got sort of this leadership dynamic between Luke Reimer and Nick Henrich, and everybody's kind of talking to each other, and they're going back and forth, trying to make sure everybody is on the same page, talking about, how, hey, now they're just messing with us. Let's just everybody remain calm, keep your cool, keep your composure. And then they go back on the field, and then they go up against the ones again. It was just interesting that if you made just one little mistake or something that wasn't up to standard, you were not rewarded with another play. And the entire group, not just the one person who might have committed the penalty or the one person who was kind of loafing, but the entire group is ran off the field, and it's kind of seen as a punishment. But the way that the guys responded to it, and kind of hearing the communication between the coaches to that actual unit, and then captains or the so-called leaders of that defense, and how they're kind of relaying the message from the coaches. It was just very interesting. And again, it's one of those examples of the great unknown, but that overall kind of optimism that I think a lot of people have for this Nebraska football team. Is it just seems like there continues to be a heavy emphasis on being able to do the little things right first, and then you start focusing on the bigger stuff. What does that translate to on the 31st of August? We don't know. But a lot of that conversation between now and then, and a lot of it that's led up to even today, it's just a very fascinating way that Matt Rule and this coaching staff goes about their day in and day out and how the players respond to that. You brought up something yesterday you did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That when we were talking
just
about
preemptive, just in case I have to apologize.
Well, I remember, and I can't remember if you brought him up by name, but you brought up an element of Matt Rule that I also kind of find to be interesting, and I think definitely something that is going to benefit this team in the long run. And it had to do with sort of the standard that is set. We were talking about Anthony Grant and the fumbling and how Matt Rule was...
If you fumble, you can't play for us.
And Matt Rule was very, very pointed about that. He was very public about that. And in certain situations, you would see coaches avoid that. Even Matt Rule himself said that he would try to avoid that. But yet he's
very honest and very sincere with his players. So I think it's very endearing from that. Like when he's saying that, he's not being a Richard. He's just saying, hey, it's matter of fact.
Well, and if he's telling it to the public, you know that he's had that conversation and some with
even
the player.
Said he knows.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I always get into this reading body language, following something that I'm curious on how the player maybe took a statement from a coach. So it wasn't long after you had the video of the team going into the new locker room. And I just remember seeing Anthony Grant in a lot of these clips with that video. And you saw a lot of Anthony Grant smiling, talking very highly of the school, talking like it didn't seem like a guy that had his dauber down. He didn't seem like a guy that all of a sudden was disconnected from the team because of something like the coach challenged him to do publicly. And I know it's a very small example or a small thing to kind of dwell on, but let's say they showed that video and I just saw sort of, an image of all the players and you kind of see Anthony Grant walking by.
Like if he was checked out.
And he just looks sort of disinterested. That would have been a concern to me. But this is where I go back to knowing how and when to challenge your players, but more than anything, having the pulse of your team.
And you know this from coaching, what it's like and kind of the psychological stuff,
the buttons you can push.
Yeah.
At least you'd better know the buttons that you can push on certain guys and how to motivate
bond
them.
on certain guys.
Mm-hmm.
And and part of it is also the culture that they seem to be establishing as one that's predicated on a lot of positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Not like juice and cookies, but just they're able to offer constructive criticism, coaching, if you will.
Right. That there's a hard lesson to be learned. There's a
succeed.
challenge there, but there's also the positive reinforcement that comes with that without, making it feel soft, without coddling. Because I think there's a fine line there. And I think you've got to have the
they
pulse
get on
of your
your
team.
ass, but the players know, but they want what's best for me. They care.
You know why it's taking place. It's constructive criticism
And you don't want to let them down.
Right. It's not completely just disarming them, cutting them down without the attempt to build them right back up. It was just one small example where it just led me to think you probably can't do that to every player on that roster because some of them are going to probably respond differently. But if that communication is open with the coach and the player and that full expectation of what we need you to be and where you currently are now and how you need to get to that standard, to that expectation, and that player is more than receptive to it, then you can go out in public and say, look, he needs to do this better. But he knows that. There are some players that when you say that, they still feel like it's not their fault. And then they hear it said publicly, then they think their coach is just throwing them under the bus. And then all of a sudden, you've got a guy that is disengaged. And I just felt like body language following that little remark on Saturday about what Anthony Grant needs to do and needs to get better of taking care of the football, which I would assume that everybody at practice between the coaches and his peers, his players would probably agree. Yeah. And to me, that is issuing a challenge because you know what that guy, and Matt Rule said this much, you know what that guy can do when he's got ball security. When he's taking care of the football, he can be a big part of your offense, but we need him to get there. Otherwise, it'd be sort of a waste of what his running ability can do because he can't hold on to the football. I feel like that was just one example of being able to communicate clearly with your players and then also being able to sort of issue a challenge through the public or through the media, where message heard, message received. And that's a big part
And
of,
he'll be
I
the
think,
first one to put an arm around him when
Mhm.
he has good things happen.
Yep.
And if he cleans that stuff up, he'll be the first one singing his praises.
To me,
And
that's a
he'll
big
use
part of
the
a college
media for that
athletics.
too.
Being able to walk that fine line
Mhm.
when you're a coach at any sport, male or female sports, being able to walk that fine line of how to properly challenge your players without causing disengagement. And it's so different than it was even 10 years ago. And as long as you're constantly evolving with that, coaches in general are doing that, you're going to have a chance to be extremely successful. I mean, it's the evolution of what's going on in college athletics when it comes to all the different things that are out there with NIL and the distractions that exist that maybe didn't exist 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. But as long as you're a coach that's not continuing to, cry foul and say, boy, back in my day, but instead you're talking about what we're doing now and how we are adapting to this current scene, you're going to get that instant respect. And I continue to see examples. And again, if you watch the third episode of A Look In
Block out an hour,
yesterday, and it's an hour,
which is good.
you see more examples of that connection, that engagement, what this team is doing. This has been a real successful thing for Nebraska to do. And as Parker, and we were talking to Parker Gabriel earlier, it's kind of like Nebraska's version of Hard Knocks, and yesterday being a little bit more of a, lengthwise of a Hard Knocks. But you get a little bit of that inside look on how this thing is being put in place. And it's hard not to walk away from it thinking,
we're on the right track.
yeah, exactly. There's something to this.
I don't know the record's going to be, but they're on the right track.
Yep.
Which is, I think, what you're looking for this year.
That's what this year's about.
All right. They're building it.
Setting the standard, and that's what the episode is called too. But establishing that standard, setting the standard, holding everybody accountable to that standard. Whether you're the number one defense, the number one offense, whether you're a guy that could be a preseason All Big Ten type guy or a guy who's just trying to find some type of playing time on any given Saturday. You're holding them all to the same standard. And it seems like that's been very consistent, at least to this point. When we come back, CBS Sports, they have their Big Ten. They don't go game by game for everybody, but they have their Big Ten predictions.
Emojis?
What's it? No emojis. That was, if you missed earlier, we went through the Omaha World Herald, Evan Bland and Sam McEwen going with the
They did
emoji
a
route.
great job.
It was really, really
Not
good.
sarcastic. They really did do a good job.
Yeah, yes, they did.
Way to go, Sam.
We can tell you where the CBS Sports panel has Nebraska finishing, and does Nebraska make any of their superlatives? Either the most underrated, overrated, bold prediction type categories. We will get to that. Also, Brandon Vogel before we get out of here. Morning Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on The Crossover.
I'm in for maximum stupid because it appears as if the people that run college athletics are also into maximum stupid.
That's just the Pac-12 commissioner. That guy screwed this whole thing.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
He's a huge
Both
idiot.
of the guys were idiots. Larry Scott and now Kliavkoff.
It's amazing how he's worse than Larry Scott.
Yeah, how he just let these teams all right, see you later.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P. 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Excessive heat warning continues Wednesday. Expect hot, humid, and breezy conditions as winds turn more out of the southwest. Expect mostly to partly sunny skies with afternoon highs around 100. Several hours with feels-like temperatures between 105 and 115 degrees. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees. The Source. By your mom's house.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Kugler Vision. One of the coolest things about the way that they do vision correction at Kugler Vision is how quick and convenient everything is, whether it's appointment availability, whether it is their advanced technology or the speedy recovery time. fast, effective results. All the questions that you have, they will answer them. Do you want to be seeing better by next weekend? It may be possible. The first step, though, reach out to Kugler Vision for a consultation today. Visit them online at KuglerVision.com.
The Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Email me, Connor Happer, with the Connor Happer Show at Connor, CONNOR, at 1620thezone.com. Send me your love, your hate, and maybe a few hot takes. The Zone Inbox, presented by Equitable Bank.
No matter how dark it gets, there's always a sunrise, a warm bed, a warm meal, and hope. Sienna Francis House serves hope to those experiencing homelessness and addiction. Every day, we provide more than 1,000 meals and serve nearly 500 guests in our emergency shelter, Miracles Recovery Program, and supportive housing apartments, and help our guests navigate a path to permanent housing. Learn more at siennafrancis.org.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Happy birthday to us. That's right. We're turning 50 this year, and we're celebrating with you. Introducing my new birthday cake streusel, topped with vanilla cake and crunchy streusel, a swirl of white icing, and showered with rainbow sprinkles. Paired with our classic combo, the one that started it all, and your favorite one-topping pizza. Happy birthday feast. Enjoy one today. Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
This week's Zone Deal is to Rib Shack Smokehouse. Rib Shack Smokehouse is known for its southern taste of down-home soul food and barbecue. Menu includes St. Louis-style ribs, smoked wings, collard greens, mac and cheese, and more to keep the crowd coming. Rib Shack Smokehouse, located at 108th and Q in Omaha. With this week's deal, you receive 2 $25 vouchers. That's a $50 value. For just $25. On sale this Friday, August 25th at 9 a.m. All the details right now at 1620thezone.com.
CBS Sports, 8 college football analysts, including Dennis Dodd, Tom Fornelli, Chip Patterson, Barrett Sally, David Cobb, Jerry Palm, and more, all weighing in on each of the conference races, including the Big Ten. Are they?
Which, as you all know, is a conference.
That is a conference, and it's a conference that is alive and well in the power structure of college football. So, if you are wanting to know the highlights of what they think of the Big Ten and the Big Ten race, you've got and I know, surprise, surprise, the 2 teams to most likely win the Big Ten under the watchful eyes of CBS Sports would be the Michigan Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, the Ohio State Buckeyes actually do get a couple of picks here from this crew, but it is, as we've kind of seen the trend, and we talked to Angelique Shingalis about this yesterday, sort of the national trend of Michigan being the favorite or the overwhelming favorite. Out of the 8 analysts, Michigan gets, actually, I take that back. Michigan gets 4 of them. So Dennis Dodd, Tom Fornelli, Jerry Palm, and Will Backus have Michigan winning the conference, where the other 4 have Ohio State. As far as the Big Ten West, you could probably guess.
You can guess who's picked 7th. Everyone's agreement there.
That is true. It's also split between Wisconsin and Iowa, where Wisconsin gets one more nod to win the Big Ten West compared to Iowa. Wisconsin is picked to finish as low as 3rd. Tom Fornelli has Wisconsin 3rd. He's got Iowa winning, and he's got Illinois 2nd. Iowa is picked as low as, I thought I saw 5th in there. No, 4th. So Iowa is as low as 4th by one analyst. Nebraska, by Barrett Sally, picked as high as a 3rd place finish in the Big Ten West and as low as 6th. 2 CBS Sports analysts have, including Jerry Palm, have Nebraska finishing 6th, where the majority of the contributors for CBS Sports have Nebraska finishing 5th, which, again, feels probably right going into the season. If you kind of look at where the majority of people weighed in on this particular topic have the Big Ten West, either Iowa or Wisconsin winning. And then the team that a lot of people are picking to finish 3rd would be Illinois. And then a lot of people have Minnesota finishing 4th. You do have Minnesota finishing as low as 6th by one of the members of the panel. As Jimmy said, it is unanimous across the board that the last place finish will be the Northwestern Wildcats. Purdue gets 5 of those nods, where Nebraska gets 2 and Minnesota gets 1. So nobody has Northwestern going higher than 7th. People, at least one person has Purdue as high as, get this, as high as 3rd.
Ryan Walters fans.
Yeah.
I do think he's a stud.
Jerry Palm has Purdue finishing 3rd, where Barrett Sally has Nebraska finishing 3rd.
And he says they make a bowl game,
Mhm.
but also, says that the margin is thin. Well, we know that.
Right.
A lot of toss-up games. And
Yep. A lot of fitty-fitties.
But hey, better than last year.
Yeah, and so in some of the bold predictions from the CBS Sports panel, Dennis Dodd has Penn State will split the games with Ohio State and Michigan, go 11-1 and qualify for the college football playoff, and James Franklin will earn National Coach of the Year honors. How about that? Tom Fornelli says Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State will all finish 11-1 with all 3 splitting their games against one another. That has also been, as of late, a popular take. Chip Patterson says 3 Big Ten teams finish in the top 6 of the college football playoff rankings. There's a realistic scenario where Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all beat each other and create a mind-bending tiebreaker scenario to decide the Big Ten East. Barrett Sally says Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord will go to New York as a Heisman Trophy finalist after throwing for over 4,000 yards and leading his Buckeyes to a perfect regular season record and win over Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. Jerry Palm says NFL rumors will continue to pepper Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh in the offseason, but he will resist. The first part of that is not a bold prediction. The second part, I don't know how much of a bold prediction it is. I guess it somewhat, considering the NCAA climate around Jim Harbaugh and I think just the overall annoyance level that Jim Harbaugh has with the NCAA. Now, we know that he will have the self-imposed 3-game suspension this year. Will that suffice for the NCAA? There's reason to believe that that might not, but the fact that he will resist, okay, that's an interesting take. I don't think there's any question that there will be NFL rumors around Jim Harbaugh until I think he gets into maybe his mid-60s. And by then, who knows if he'll still be the head coach at Michigan. Maybe he will already have made that jump over to the NFL. This is where I want to skip over to Will Backus, who is on this CBS Sports panel. He does mention Nebraska in his bold prediction. Says Nebraska will make a bowl game in year 1 under Matt Rule. It will be by, as Jimmy mentioned, a thin margin, though there are 6 games on the Huskers schedule you can call with varying levels of certainty winnable, or as I like to say, opportunities. So, yet again, it's another publication that really goes all in on college football that has Nebraska really at the middle of the road this year. And I think this is where I go back to the hire of Matt Rule and how it sort of resonated with the national writers. I think there is that reputation of trust in Matt Rule, not necessarily trust in Nebraska. I think I was listening to a little bit of Joel Klatt's podcast when he was talking about Nebraska and talking about how this is a massive undertaking for Nebraska. And it could be a long, grueling process. But he also went on to say that Joel Klatt could not think of a better coach to take on that type of task. So it was one thing when you remember Scott Frost being hired, coming off of the heater that he did at Central Florida, and knowing that he was going back to a place that he knew probably better than most, having played there and having grown up there in Nebraska, there was that connection that everybody obviously made that should work. The Matt Rule one, you look at it in a different lens. Outsider to the program itself, but as a college football mind, is highly regarded. And the types of programs that he went into, given their state at the time and the way that he left them, gets him a lot of high marks, and it should. So Nebraska is now, for a team that, and if you talk to bettors and you talk to some of the books that do the power rankings, they will always tell you it's tough when it comes to Nebraska because they're a team that you can't trust when it comes to making bets or
makes sense.
Playing Nebraska, laying the points in non-conference games. But what's interesting on a team that you can't trust with what they've done historically, you're starting to see that narrative when it comes to national pundits looking at Nebraska that, we don't necessarily trust Nebraska, but we trust Matt Rule. And when those two sort of intersect to where you can continue to trust Matt Rule, but now in turn you are trusting Nebraska, isn't that another place that you'd love to see Nebraska be at? I mean, we're talking about when you can start to look at future schedules and say, there's a win in conference play, not just in non-conference play. But there's that trust factor that I think people have a lot more of it with a little bit bigger body of work as a head football coach like Matt Rule has compared to what Scott Frost had. There was reason to believe it would work for both of these individuals. And there's reason to believe it will work with Matt Rule, but they couldn't be any further apart on why, if that makes sense. The why for Scott Frost, what I laid out. The why for Matt Rule is a little bit bigger body of turning around football programs and doing a lot of that the way he's showing that he's starting to do at Nebraska, and that is trying to set that expectation, set that standard, the foundation that we always talk about that's necessary in year one. And cannot say it enough. Not skipping steps along the way, no matter how good or even bad any given Saturday might look, sticking to the plan of what he and this coaching staff have set out to do. Because that's been relayed to the players. Now it's time for the execution part of it.
Well, and that applies also when things are going against you in a game, like, oh, here it goes again. Like, no, stay the course, have faith in the plan.
Right.
Stick with it.
Yes. And a lot
That's
of
the
that
pounding the rock reference that Greg Popovich has with the Spurs. I know, bias, but it's the truth. You just keep, the quote that's in their locker room.
Or sawing the wood.
Sawing wood, yes. But, the rock quote is, this rock cutter. He's hitting the rock 100 times, and on the 101st blow, it splits. And then he realized that this isn't the 101st blow, but it's the 100 that came before it.
Right. And this is where I go back to Ethan Piper was talking yesterday. And as we've talked about, the players have really been consistent with the message from the coaches. Listening to Ethan Piper talk about this too, and you've heard other players say, Saturdays need to be a celebration.
Yeah.
Saturdays need to be the fun part of that week's preparation because Tuesday and Wednesday were the most grueling. Tuesday and Wednesdays where they put in the work for that upcoming opponent, to where Saturday we should all know what we're doing and we should have no doubt at all in the capabilities of what they can do, where it shouldn't be like, oh gosh, here we go, where it should be like, all right, it's party time.
I can't remember who we were talking to yesterday, and something like that came up to the point where it gotten to a point where people are already planning what they're going to do on Saturday during the game. I'm going to clean the fridge. I'm going to clean the garage. I'm going to go out and mow, because you already know it's going to be like, either it's going to put me to sleep or I'm just going to be really pissed, or a combination of both.
Yeah.
You want to get back to the point where you're blaring the fight song from a speaker outside your house at 6:30 in the morning. You're pumped. You got meat already smoking out there. You got a little kegerator. Like you're excited, or you're going down to it's a celebration.
Yep.
Because you're just excited to see what happens. And even if, yes, they didn't win today, they're getting better. You see it.
Yeah.
And then eventually that turns into, you expect to win every game, because, and this goes back to what you just said, you see conference opponents on the schedule. It's like, we'll beat them. We'll beat them. And then it comes back to, it's only a couple games, but we could go in there. We could go beat, say, a Michigan or Ohio State if you play the right way. That's kind of the process. And kind of when we talk about this stuff, I'm excited about next Thursday, because I feel like we've been talking about this since Scott got fired. What's it going to be like? But I want to see what's it going to be like.
What's going to be like. You got a
Not
conference
necessarily
opponent.
the final score.
Right.
I just want to see, how are they playing? How do they look?
And you're going up against a very interesting opponent, too, that has had your number, albeit close games, other than the Saturday night game in Minneapolis and Hoodiegate. But, yeah, I mean, it's been close games. And how does it look? How does this team look from a physical standpoint? How does the team look from a discipline standpoint? You start to get a little bit of
no silly
that.
penalties,
Yes,
which was a hallmark of the Scott Frost era, beating yourself.
Turnovers, crunch time,
turnovers.
Adversity. How do you respond to it when a team counters with what you're doing? How do you recounter it? A lot of things that, again, may not even lead to a victory, or the scoreboard might not be the tell-all. But what we can finally see with our eyes in competition against a quality opponent like Minnesota. I'm going to talk more about that with Brandon Vogel as he wraps up the show with us, coming up next.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. Now live on Twitch, YouTube, and 1620thezone.com.
Air conditioning out? Don't sweat it. If you have a heating, air conditioning, or plumbing problem, you shouldn't have to wait for great service. That's why Thermal is available day and night for every heating and cooling issue. We have the fastest response time in the metro with the same great rate day or night. When you need great service fast, call 402-397-8100 or go to thermalservices.com. We'll be there soon, and we'll get you and your family back to being comfortable in no time.
Break out your bell bottoms and platform shoes when the Omaha Storm Chasers throw it back on 70s night, August 24th at Warner Park. Enjoy 70s themed food, drinks, music, and even throwback 70s inspired Omaha Royals jerseys. You'll think you're at the disco. Don't miss your chance to bring back the grooviest decade. Get your tickets at OmahaStormChasers.com.
Omaha Storm Chasers family. Everyone get on your feet, stir up the storm with family.
The Dell Technologies Back to School event is on, with deals on top tech for class, hobbies, and more. Now, when you buy, you support a cause. With every eligible purchase, Dell will donate to UNICEF in support of GIGA, a UNICEF ITU global initiative to connect schools across the globe to the internet. Accidental damage protection included. Get rare deals on select laptops and desktops powered by the latest Intel Core processors. Save now at Dell.com/deals. UNICEF does not endorse any company, brand, product, or service.
The Salvation Army's Summer Fan Program is happening now. Summer's here and temperatures are on the rise. If you or someone you know could use a boxed fan to help keep cool this season, we can assist. Just call 402-898-5860. That's 402-898-5860. Certain restrictions apply. For more information on the Summer Fan Program, log on to salarmyomaha.org, or again, just call that number, 402-898-5860. The Salvation Army, doing the most good right here in the Metro.
Do you like to drink? Head to Wine, Beer, and Spirits. It's not just big, it's huge. Our 30,000 square foot flagship store south of 144th and Center has the largest selection and best prices in town. Drink while you shop. Yes, drink while you shop. Taste bourbons, craft beers, or fine tequilas at rock bottom prices from the in-store bar. Or enjoy the sun on downtown's largest patio at the new Old Market location on 11th and Jones. Wine, Beer, and Spirits is Nebraska's largest locally owned liquor store. Find out more about upcoming events at winebeerandspirits.com. Please drink responsibly.
O'Reilly Auto Parts' new Brake Best Select Pro brand raises the bar for the best aftermarket domestic brake pads and rotors available. For vehicle-specific friction formulations, Quiet-Tech noise-canceling shims, and stainless steel hardware, choose Brake Best Select Pro. Professional-grade brakes from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Join Sharp and Handley this Thursday from 6 to 10 when they officially kick off 1620 The Zone's Red Out Week, presented by Union Bank and Trust. Gary and Nick discuss Nebraska's first game in Minnesota in the 2023 season. It's Sharp and Handley season kickoff, presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. Thursday, 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
I'm showing a real feel of 94 degrees at 9:45. How about that? Brandon Vogel joining us on the 42-degree hotline. As they ask, Brandon, is it hot enough for you?
I didn't know you guys were at 94 at 9:45. That's pretty brutal. I woke up this morning where I live, and I was like, oh, we surpassed the low for the day at like 6 a.m. I was like, that's not good. But we're not at 94 yet.
On our way to a heat index of
come
206.
come on and join us, man. Come on. What are you guys doing out there? Get with the program.
Well,
it builds
the way
character.
The weather works, in my experience, is like I'll have that in like 36 hours. So think of me on Friday.
Okay, we'll do that. So as we get to, it's crazy to think we are a little more than a week away from kicking this whole thing off. And you know, if you're kind of, if there's the one thing that you're zeroing in on, Jimmy and I were just kind of talking about how, you know, with this game coming up on a week from tomorrow, with what we think we might know about this team, but more than anything, what we don't know about this team, what's the biggest thing you're hoping to take away from that first game with Nebraska rolling out the Matt Rule era?
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of it comes from a lot of what the coaching staff has been saying of late, of like this, you know, you play Minnesota under PJ Fleck, and you got to be ready for it to be close quarters.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a little bit ugly at times. Is Nebraska up for that fight? I think is the big broad thing for me. And, you know, most of the specific questions for me still lie on the offensive side of the football, where it's like, okay, how are you going to move the football? How fast or slow are you going to go? And that, you know, Minnesota presents a really interesting question with that. Like, you know, if we look at it broadly for next Thursday, like if Nebraska's going to win that game as a road underdog, you know, like you're probably going to have to find a way to control time of possession, which, you know, is something that sometimes doesn't come up a lot in modern football, but it still comes up quite a bit in Big Ten football, in my opinion. Can you do that? If so, how are you going to do it? So those are kind of some of the specific things, like how is Nebraska going to be able to stay on the field offensively? Because I just don't know enough about that side of the ball. Like I feel decently confident about the defense being able to, you know, have some new looks for Minnesota, particularly with the new defensive coordinator and a new base alignment. But those are kind of the big ones. Like, are they up for the fight? Matt Rule, all fall camp, preseason camp, whatever you want to call it, been talking about, we got to earn the right to go up there and do it. Have they? Does it look like they have? And I think, you know, by the time we get to next Friday, a week from Friday. I'm expecting people to be encouraged no matter what the result is, but it's just tough until you actually see it.
And I saw that you tweeted this out with some of the West Division quarterbacks. But when we think of Jeff Sims in this game against Minnesota and the emergence of Gabe Ervin, who is clearly, according to Matt Rule, as of last Saturday, the running back, what do you sort of expect from the running game when it comes to Jeff Sims this first go around?
Yeah, I think in their perfect world, well, I mean, Matt Rule has even said it at some point over the summer of like, hey, if we're running the quarterback on designed runs 15 times a game, probably not a great idea, which is where Nebraska has been for the past, 5-6 seasons. Well, 5 seasons for sure. The Adrian Martinez era, essentially. So I think they go into this knowing that, hey, if we have to use Jeff Sims to run the football, the way Nebraska has a lot with the quarterback of late, that's probably not where we want to be. So the Gabe Ervin piece of the equation here, I think, is important. But he does, as I tweeted yesterday, because I was just like thinking about all of the Big Ten quarterbacks, and I was like, there's not a ton of rushers, like not even rushers. It's just like guys you would consider dual threats in the league in 2023. And Jeff Sims, minus maybe JJ McCarthy at Michigan, who, it's a different scenario. He probably has the best ability to do that. And I think that's an advantage potentially for Nebraska, depending on how much they want to use it. And, Matt Rule kind of said, I think on the radio show last night of like, hey, I wouldn't want to coach against Jeff Sims because he can do both things. So that's a little bit of a rarity in the Big Ten in 2023. And we'll see how it plays out.
Another conversation and maybe it's because we're getting closer to where, and you know how this goes, Brandon, sometimes the question marks and the right type of spin on some of those question areas can maybe get into your head a little bit where you're thinking, okay, maybe there's something to this. I bring it up because I want to get your thoughts on the feel of the defensive line to where you were going into spring to where you are now. Do you feel the same? Is there any more optimism that you maybe now have that you didn't with this defensive line?
I think I'm mostly the same.
Okay.
Because, hearing Rule talk about Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher last night was good. And kind of knowing that Cam Lenhart is right there. If he's not your third guy, he's 3B. He's going to play enough that it effectively doesn't matter. Like, okay, well, that's good that you found a true freshman who can step in there and do that. And Blaise Gunnerson is a guy who I've kind of personally been waiting to, make his big splash at any point. A player I really liked coming out of high school. So that's good. And I know that they want to rotate guys up there. They probably don't have as many guys as they would in a perfect world choose. So health's going to become important. I just kind of look at that group and there's, I look at a team like Illinois, for example, where it's like, well, they've got 2 difference makers up there. They've got 2 NFL draft picks. And that's an advantage that Nebraska doesn't have. Doesn't mean by the time we get to the end of the year, maybe they will have 2 draft picks there. We'll see. So there's still a lot to be figured out with that group in my mind. And I go back to 2009 pretty often, and even 2010 when Sue was gone, but Crick was still there. Like, if you can be really good up front, you've got a chance to just be really good in general. And I wouldn't put Nebraska in that category yet, though the coaching staff has expressed optimism about that group.
Talking to Brandon Vogel here on 1620 The Zone. Brandon, the other part of this game that I think a lot of us are kind of interested in seeing is when Nebraska does want to throw the football, in what direction is Jeff Sims going? Where is he confident with? How much of a role do the tight ends play in this? And I think those are all great questions because we know, and it was talked about yesterday, Marcus Satterfield spent a lot of time talking about the accuracy and how that's improved for Jeff Sims, but we really won't know that until we get into a game. But when it does come to the overall passing game, do you get the feeling that they will take some pretty big shots down the field, or do you think it's going to be sort of in concert with what they want to do running the football?
I think particularly early, it might be mostly in concert with what they want to do running the football. When I look at Nebraska's roster and the wide receiver room here, basically a week out from the season opener, I kind of look at this as like, hey, if you're somebody, and I think a lot of people just kind of go there, who looks at, okay, who's the quarterback and what receivers does he have to throw to? You might not feel great about Nebraska based on what we know right now, but for them, I think a big piece of this is going to become, somebody like Ramir Johnson, and the tight ends. We can go back and look at all of the years of, hey, what's realistic for a tight end, a heavily used tight end. And, Austin Allen might be a great example of that. How many catches is that guy actually going to make in a year? I think this year it might be higher, and it might be higher out of necessity for Nebraska. But I think that fits with this offense conceptually as a whole of maybe we don't have the two guys that are just, let's throw it up to them and see what happens. And you need that. You need somebody to be able to serve that function. But early on in this year, say the first month of the season, I do expect them to get pretty creative. And hey, let's see what Thomas Fedoti is ready to handle in his first extensive playing time. Let's see what we can do out of the backfield. Yeah. And they're going to have to get a little bit creative, I think, in the passing game to start.
And I'll end with this one because I know he was brought up yesterday. Was mentioned, I think Marcus Satterfield said, yeah, he's going to have a role offensively, but we just haven't heard as much from him in fall that we did in spring leading into fall. And Janarin Bonner, where are you at with Janarin Bonner on what he provides and how he might be used?
He's really intriguing to me, and I've watched the new release of Nebraska's Inside the End, which has been great from my perspective, and he popped a couple of times on that, not just for making catches, but there were a couple of times where I was like, oh, that's a pretty good throw from Jeff Sims to Bonner, and so I think he's kind of the wild card, maybe a little bit of a dark horse here. A guy who was a pretty big get for Nebraska in recruiting as a pure receiver. This coaching staff came in and said, well, maybe you're not just a receiver for us. Super intriguing. So there's a lot of potential there in my mind. And, if we get to the end of September and Bonner is Nebraska's second or third leading receiver, wouldn't surprise me a ton. But it just kind of goes back to that receiver group as a whole. Is you can't point to him and say he's going to be one of your top three guys for this reason. That stuff that all has to be sorted out, and I think that's okay. I think that's okay. For a first year coaching staff going into a league that they haven't been in before.
Brandon Vogel again joins us every Wednesday. Brandon, very much appreciate it, my man. Have a great rest of the week.
You too. Talk to you next week.
All right, wrapping up today's show. Big thank you to Parker Gabriel, Paul Lamanji, and Brandon Vogel. Check out the radio replay for anything that you might have missed. Crossover is coming your way. And don't forget, tomorrow we kick off Big Red Week around the world. We've got former Husker Blackshirt Jay Moore, Chad Kelsey, Stuart Mandel will join the show, and much more.
And
big
special
kickoff
guest
show.
Gary Sharp.
And Gary Sharp is back, baby. He will be joining us as well. Look forward to talking to you then. Crossovers coming up. For Jimmy, I'm Nick. You've been listening to Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.